Hello everyone, welcome to What If Luffy Reincarnates in the World of Naruto Part 2. Before we start, please go support Javier Ramirez 042 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Luffy is a male in this story. Chapter 16, Battle on the Bridge. Sasuke and Haku were fighting at high speed, clashing their weapons furiously, and the others were watching them attentively. He can still keep up with him at that speed, Zabuza thought with narrowed eyes. They are fast, but they don't have the speed I have yet, Sanji thought seriously. Kakashi and Knight looked at everything seriously, and Knight shouted, "Sakura, get in front of Tazuna, and don't get away from us." "Yes, let's let Sasuke handle this," Kakashi said. "Yes," she said, approaching Tazuna. Knight looked at the Mugiwaras and said, "You stay alert. Do not lose caution in this battle." Everyone nodded and got into position to keep an eye out for anything. Meanwhile, Sasuke and Haku looked at each other attentively, and Haku said, "I don't want to kill you. But you won't back down, right?" Sasuke smiled arrogantly and said, "Do not be a moron." Haku realized what made him so confident and said with amusement, "I see. But you won't be able to keep up with my speed next time. Furthermore, I have already gained 2 advantages." "2 advantages?" Sasuke asked, angry at what he said. "The first is the water on the ground, and the second is that I have blocked one of your arms. Now you will only be able to flee from my attacks," said Haku, making seals with his free hand. "What? With one hand? It's impossible," Sasuke thought furiously. "With a hand? This is getting ugly," Knight thought sweatily. When Haku finished making the seals, he said, "Hijitsu Sensatsu Seisho Special Jutsu, Flying Water Needles." Instantly, the water around the 2 solidified into ice needles, and they were pointed at the Uchiha. "He doesn't want to kill him. Is that true?" Zabuza thought, looking at everything. "What jutsu is that?" Zoro said upon seeing that. Everyone watched this with wide eyes, and Sasuke just closed his eyes as he concentrated. "Remember the training. Focus my chakra on my legs," he thought with an arrogant smile. Instantly, he disappeared from the scene like a blur, just in time to prevent the needles from turning him into a pincushion. Haku jumped out of there and said, impressed. He disappeared. But he noticed how he was being attacked quickly by Sasuke and had to dodge him quickly until he was cornered by the Uchiha, who had a kunai on his neck. "You are quite slow. From now on, you will only be able to flee from my attacks. This is what happens to those who challenge the absolute power of the Uchihas," said the black-haired man with an evil voice. He attacked him with his kunai furiously, but Haku blocked it with his Senbon. However, Sasuke threw his kunai towards his face, causing Haku to duck to avoid it. But Sasuke kicked his mask, which surprised Haku because of his speed. "It's fast," he thought at that moment. Sasuke's kick hit his mask and sent him flying back towards Zabuza, who had seen everything with wide eyes. "What? Haku lost speed?" he thought in disbelief. "It seems I have the advantage in speed," Sasuke said arrogantly. Everyone looked at him with a frown, and Sanji was trying not to laugh as he thought, "He's an idiot. That speed is just a standard speed. I was watching him throughout the fight as if he were in slow motion, and I can say that my speed is superior to his. I can't allow you to underestimate my team by calling them brats. Sasuke is the #1 rookie in the Leaf Village, and Sakura is the smartest in the village," Kakashi said in a lazy voice. Sasuke smiled arrogantly, and Sakura smiled shyly as her inner self said, "Of course." Knight looked at Kakashi as he sighed to make his team look so great when they had only just begun their ninja life, and said to Zabuza seriously, "As for the others, most of them are people who have experienced a lot in their lives, including death battles, and have been led by Luffy, the man who has overcome the deadliest tests of his life." At this, Sasuke gritted his teeth at the fact that this worthless sensei put him lower than those commoners, and Sakura was shocked by what she heard. Zabuza started to laugh in amusement and said, "Did you realize, Haku? This way, we'll be left behind." "Yeah. We can't allow it, Haku said, releasing his chakra. Instantly, the air became colder, and this worried most. What is this cold? Zoro and Sanji thought as they felt it. Brook looked around and became worried. Guys, my skin is feeling something familiar. Oh, but I don't have skin, yahohoho, he said with a smile. Then, behind Sasuke you could see how the water rose and suddenly, they transformed into ice. Hayatan, Maku Hayashu ice element, demonic ice mirrors, Haku shouted after making the seals. Instantly, multiple ice mirrors formed around Sasuke and this left everyone with their mouths agape. What is that jutsu? Kakashi thought worriedly. Knight saw this with serious eyes and thought. This is bad. That's Hayatan, the ice Kekkei Genkai, and if that kid has been training in it since he was a kid, we're in trouble. Then, Haku entered one of the mirrors and everyone saw how in each of them they could see a copy of himself. Did he clone himself in the mirrors? Usopp asked scared. I would say it's how it is reflected in each of them, Robin said, analyzing the situation. Kakashi rushed towards the place with the intention of saving Sasuke, but Zabuza stood in front of him while saying, Hey, your opponent is me. Knight saw this with a frown and shouted to Zoro. Zoro, your turn to act. Take care of Zabuza while we try to help Sasuke. Zoro nodded and moved quickly to draw his katanas. Zabuza watched as the green-haired boy lunged at him and smiled as he moved his great sword to block Zoro's katanas. Good, I was thinking you wouldn't fight me, however. No matter what they do, that boy is lost. They won't be able to save him from that jutsu. Once he locks it in the cage, there is no way to get in or out, he said evilly. Kakashi looked at the cage in frustration and Knight decided to remain calm to see what would happen. While Zoro and Zabuza fought with their swords, Sasuke looked at Haku's reflections with hatred and the ice boy said, Well, should I start? What are these mirrors, you damn commoner? Sasuke shouted angrily. I'm going to show you my true speed, was the only thing Haku said. Then, all the reflections took a senbon and the next moment, everyone was motionless before what their eyes saw. Sakura didn't understand what had happened. At first she was looking at the mirror cage next to Tazuna, then she saw how Sasuke looked at her with a strange smile and the next moment, she was in the cage looking at the image of Haku about to attack her. This had left her in shock while 1 second she was thinking about why Sasuke had done it and that it was her end. However, the next second, she found herself on the other side of the cage and saw something that left her breathless. Everyone was speechless at what they saw since they did not understand how it had happened. In front of everyone, inside the cage, Luffy was in the same place as Sasuke, with thousands of senbons all over his body. Luffy, Nami, Robin and Sakura screamed in pain. Those who had vision capable of seeing quickly looked at Sasuke with hatred since they had seen what had happened. Instantly, Sanji kicked the Uchiha with anger until he was unconscious on the ground. The damn one had used the Kawarimi with Sakura to escape danger even at the cost of her partner's life, and then Luffy had done the same when he arrived with Nami to save the pink-haired girl's life. Knight was furious about this and would inform the Hokage when they returned since with this, he would have something to support his plan. Kakashi was also furious about what happened and was willing to punish the Uchiha for such an act. Sakura was watching the scene with tears along with Nami, who was calm as she knew that this was nothing to Luffy, and wondered why he saved her if she was so cruel to him. Haku looked at Luffy in amazement for such an act and remembered when he found him with his nakamas, and he told him that he had learned another reason to fight. But he was more surprised that he was still standing even though he had senbons in critical areas and shouted in disbelief. How is it possible? You have senbons in areas where your nervous system should be paralyzed. It shouldn't be possible for you to be standing. But to the surprise of some, Luffy looked at her with fire in his eyes and Haku asked in pure amazement, How come you can still move? At that moment, Luffy shouted with all his power, By my galls! Everyone was open-mouthed, except the Mugiwaras who looked at him with a big smile, and Luffy covered his fist with Haki armor as he entered second gear. Gomu Gomu no Red Hawk Gatling, Luffy shouted as he began to throw punches everywhere. His fiery fists impacted on the ice mirrors and they were all destroyed on contact. Impossible, this shouldn't be possible. Haku thought in dismay as he tried to escape. He jumped from a mirror and tried to run away from the black-haired man, but Luffy moved quickly towards him and with his fist covered in armor haki, he hit him in the mask, throwing him away. Haku fell to the ground and Luffy looked at him with cold eyes that turned purple with several rings in them. Haku stood up from the ground as his mask broke and he looked at Luffy with respect. "Awesome. You have shown me that you have the power to protect your precious people," he said once his mask was completely destroyed. Everyone looked at him with wide eyes and Luffy was speechless. "Are you the boy from the other day? The one who taught us the power to protect what is most precious?" he asked surprised. Haku looked at him with neutral eyes and said, "That's right. Now my life is of no use since I have failed Zabuza-sama as a tool. That's why I ask you to kill me?" Everyone opened their eyes at these words and Luffy began to hit him with fury while shouting, "Damn, what are you talking about? Tool? You are not that, you are a free person, and you rule your own life." Haku looked at him with pity and just said, "I have no other reason to exist. I had very dear people a long time ago, parents. I was born in a small snow-covered village in the country of fog. I was happy, my parents were very kind people. But when I grew up, my father killed my mother just because of the blood we possessed. Because of the civil war in Kiri, bloodlines were hated and their users hunted. For that reason, my father killed my mother, and when I found out, he had already killed him." Everyone was speechless at what they heard and Luffy gritted his teeth at such a story. "After that, I saw myself as an unwanted person, and when Zabuza-sama appeared, he accepted me. I was so happy, and from that day on, I became his tool for his purposes. That is my only reason for living," said Haku with empty eyes. This made Luffy grind his teeth and he yelled angrily, "That is not true, you are no one's tool, you are free and can do whatever you want. Look at my nakamas, they experienced something very similar to what you experienced, and I saved them in the same way. Do you see them treating each other like my tools? No, they are free to live how they want, and we are nakamas to fulfill our dreams together. I have saved them and treat them like human beings, like my nakamas. Nobody is a tool, we are all free." Haku looked at him with wide eyes and looked at Zabuza, who was just watching everything calmly. Then he looked at Luffy and said, "But I have no other purpose in my life. If I am not your tool, what other purpose can I have?" Luffy gave him a big smile and said, "Be free, seek freedom not only for yourself, but for those who suffered like you. If it seems good to you, come with us so you can live normally and freely in Konoha. There, no one will hurt you for having a bloodline, and if someone wants to do so, I will kick their ass." Haku looked at him with tears in his eyes at those words and looked at Zabuza for his opinion. The swordsman just sighed and put his sword away as he said, "You know, if Kiri thought like this boy, he wouldn't have escaped after trying to kill Yagura. That land needs people who think like him. Haku, I think this boy is right and that we should move forward. Maybe Konoha will help us with what we're looking for." This made everyone smile and Haku wiped away her tears as she said, "As you say, Zabuza-sama." However, there was some applause on the bridge, and as they looked over, everyone could see a certain short guy with a cane who was looking at them all with a sly smile. "Oh, but what a moving conversation there is here. How disappointing." Everyone looked at him with cold eyes and Zabuza said, "Cat, I see you brought your thugs to finish the job." Gato looked at him maliciously and said, "He, the plan has changed. Well, actually I was thinking of doing this from the beginning. I'm going to have to kill you, Zabuza, since I never thought about paying you any money." But to their confusion, Zabuza burst out laughing, causing the bullies to glare at him until he said, "Did you know? I don't care if you don't want to pay me because I've already made the decision not to work with you anymore. Keep your money if you can, I will take your life along with that of all these inept people." Gato looked at him with a mocking look as he said, "You and how many others?" But he saw how Haku, Luffy and the Mugiwara stood next to him, and Luffy said, "We'll kick your ass, shorty." Cat looked at him furiously and shouted to his people, "That's enough, kill them." Zabuza looked at Kakashi and said, "Do you want to eliminate all of these with me?" Kakashi smiled with his eyes and preparing his kunai said, Clear. It will remind me of old times. And in that way, everyone launched themselves against the army of thugs, to eliminate them. They passed through all the thugs with their weapons, slashing and attacking anyone in their path at surprising speed. Puss saw in horror how all the bullies were falling easily, and how they were getting even closer to him. Eventually, Zabuza reached the dwarf, leaving a wasteland of corpses behind them on the bridge. Gato watched them in horror, as he stared at him with cold eyes. No, please spare my life, I am just a businessman seeking wealth, I beg you. Forgive me, what do you want? Money? Women? I can give you anything you want, I only ask that you spare my life, the dwarf shouted with fear in his soul. Zabuza stood in front of him and looked at him with emotionless eyes to say, I don't give a damn about your pleas. This is my resignation, you idiot. And with that, he slashed the evil tycoon right in the middle of the chest, cutting him in half before everyone's eyes. In this way, the hell of the Land of Waves had ended. Chapter 17. Farewell and Return to Konoha. 2 weeks later. Everyone was standing in front of the finished bridge, and the inhabitants of the Land of Waves were saying goodbye to Team 7. Thanks to you we completed the bridge, especially with the super help of Frankie-san, said Tazuna with a smile. Wow, that bridge turned out really well thanks to our super teamwork as super carpenters, Frankie said happily. Tazuna laughed a little at that, but then put on a sad face and said, But this is very sad. Do not worry. We'll come to visit, Knight said with a smile. Inari looked at Luffy and Nami with tears welling up in her eyes as she said, You better. Luffy and Nami looked at him with a smile and Nami said, Inari-kun, you're sad, right? It's okay to cry. I'm not going to cry, what about you, Nei-chan? You want to cry too, Inari shouted angrily. Nami shed tears and hugged the child while shouting, Yes, I'm crying, take good care of yourself, Inari. Luffy smiled at the scene and started walking while saying, See you, Inari. Be a brave child and protect those most precious to you. Inari watched him walk away with a smile and said, CACI low hair, Luffy and I. As Team 7 left, Tazuna said with a smile, That boy changed Inari's heart, and Inari changed the hearts of others. That boy gave us a bridge of hope called Freedom. Bridge, ah yes. We have to give the bridge a name. I have a perfect one, the Great Mugiwara Bridge, said Tsunami with a smile. Hee, that's a good name, Tazuna said happily. Meanwhile, on the way home, the entire team along with Zabuza and Haku walked towards Konoha to report on the mission, talking happily about what happened, but a certain Uchiha was plotting an evil plan in his head. When I return, I will have the council force you to give me everything you own and ask that you make those 2 girls my slaves. It will be the best punishment for thinking yourself better than me, and Uchiha. The council will achieve what I want. They always give me what I want, and this way I will be able to show that no one is above me. Sasuke thought with an evil smile. Knight watched this with a frown and sighed. He knew that trouble was brewing for his group and he would have to act when they returned. Back in Konoha, the team stood in front of Sarutobi to report on the mission, and after telling him everything that happened, the old man smoked his pipe while saying, Apparently they had a mission that was not what they imagined. But the good thing is that they are safe and were able to complete their mission. Regarding Zabuza and young Haku, they will be put on probation with an interrogation with Ibiki to find out if they have no bad intentions towards the village, and if they can be shinobi here. I'm sorry, but it's protocol. No problem. I just need no one to hurt Haku or I'll have reasons to attack this place, Zabuza said with a frown. It's understandable. Well, you can return to your homes. Your rewards will be delivered at another time. Now you should rest, Sarutobi said with a smile. Hokage-sama, I need to speak to you in private, Knight said seriously. Sarutobi nodded and sent the others away. When everyone left, Sasuke headed towards the people he wanted to see to put his evil plan into action. When they were alone, Knight made several seals and hit her hand on the ground as she said, Dark seal, dark barrier. Instantly, the black barrier went up in the Hokage's office and Sarutobi looked at it with a frown. If you put up this barrier, it means it's something very serious. At least, the Umbus know you very well since you were their captain years ago, and they know you won't do anything bad. So, what do you have to tell me? Asked the old man with serious eyes. Knight sat on one of the chairs and said in a cold voice, "It's about Sasuke Uchiha and the Mugiwaras. In the mission, he has been attacking my group constantly, and has shown envy of him as well as hatred of him towards them. I inform you in advance that Luffy has awakened the legendary Rinnegan Jujutsu, and the Uchiha has demanded that I hand it over to him. He has been challenging the authority of us senseis, and his arrogance has reached its limits." Sarutobi sighed at that and said, "I was afraid of that. Those bastards on the council have given him everything just because he is the last Uchiha, and because they want him on their side to have more power. That brat will be the biggest problem if we don't control him from now on." "Exactly, and I know that he will go to the council to force the Mugiwaras to give him all the power they possess, and I suspect that he will also want the girls of the group as his slaves. Sarutobi, we have to use that right now," Knight said with very serious eyes. Sarutobi looked at him with wide eyes and said, "You're talking about that project? I think it's the best. With that, those boys will be safe from any action the council takes against them, and they'll be immune to everything. Very well, I'll prepare the papers right now so we have the advantage from now on." "Yes, we can't waste time. At any moment they can be called by the council," said Knight with furious eyes. A while later, at Ichiraku Ramen, the Mugiwaras were eating a delicious ramen prepared by Tucci and Ayam with the help of Sanji when an Umbu appeared before them and said, "You have been called to the council chamber. You must come with me now." Everyone looked at him with a frown, and Luffy said, "We don't want to, we're eating, and we're not moving from here just because those idiots called us." The Umbu approached them and said in a cold voice, "Unfortunately, they have no choice. If they don't go, they will be treated as traitors and the council may condemn them to exile." He tried to take them by force, but Knight appeared before them and said to the Umbu, "Don't worry, they will go with me. You tell those idiots to wait for us." The Umbu nodded respectfully and left. "What's wrong? Why does a group of people want to see us?" Nami asked angrily. Knight just sighed and extended his hand towards them as he said, "We have a very serious problem because of an emo with hair shaped like a duck's butt, and it would be better to solve it now if we don't want to continue with said problem. Take my hand and we will go to the meeting place immediately." The Mugiwaras gritted their teeth at the problem and took Knight's hand before disappearing from the restaurant. Boardroom. All the council members were gathered at the large table when a black blur appeared before them and Knight appeared along with the Mugiwaras. Finally, it was time for them to appear, an old woman said with annoyance. Knight just looked at them with a bad face and said, "They keep their mouths shut because I'm not in the mood for them to say their stupid things." "How dare you, you're talking to the council," shouted a fat guy on the civilian side. "And I remind you that I am the leader of the Darkness clan and that by a law of the first and second Hokage, I am immune to any order of this stupid council and that I can ask the Hokage to execute any of you as the law dictates. Is that what you want?" said Knight looking at them with cold eyes. Everyone remained silent as they trembled in fear and a certain bandaged old man gnashed his teeth at Knight's presence. Sarutobi chuckled as his teachers had left the greatest trump card against these fools before dying. Knight smiled when she saw that he was in control of the situation, and smiled even more when she saw the hateful face that the Uchiha gave her. "All right. Allow me to introduce the Mugiwaras to the council members. First I will introduce the Shinobi Council starting with Hayashi Hyuga, the leader of the Hyuga clan," said Sarutobi. He pointed to a man with brown hair down to his back, pearly eyes like the moon and a stoic gaze who looked at the Mugiwaras with what seemed like interest. "We continue with the leader of the Inuzuka clan, Suminazuka," the Sandame continued. He pointed to a wild brown-haired woman with 2 marks on her face and canine features who was looking at them with a wild smile. "Then there is the leader of the Nara clan, Shikaku Nara," the old man continued. He pointed to a man who was the spitting image of Shikamaru, only older, staring at them lazily. "Next we have the leader of the Yamanaka clan, Inoichi Yamanaka," Sarutobi continued. He pointed to a man with blonde hair and a ponytail, who was looking at them intently. Then there is the leader of the Akimichi clan, Choza Akimichi, the Sandaime continued with a smile. He pointed to a large-bodied man with reddish hair who gave them a smile. And finally we have the leader of the Aburaim clan, Shibi Aburaim. The Sandaime continued with a smile. A man with a trench coat covering part of his face looked at them neutrally, and Sarutobi then pointed across the table. They are the civil council, who are in charge of the commercial and economic affairs of the village. In addition to those two sides, we have the council of elders made up of Koharu Yuditane, Hamura Mitokado and Danzo Shimura. Sarutobi said, pointing to the three elders behind him. The Mugiwaras saw how the old man with bandages was looking at them carefully, and they did not like that. Sarutobi slammed his fist into the palm of his hand and said, "Oh, that's right. I forgot to mention the leader of the clan with the most importance along with the Senju, Uzumaki, Uchiha and Hyuga, the Darkness clan, with Night as its leader." Night bowed at this and asked everyone, "So, may I know why you called these people to a council meeting?" Koharu stepped forward and said seriously, "They have been summoned to order them to give Sasuke Uchiha, heir to the Uchiha clan, all their jutsus, skills, weapons and knowledge that they possess. Additionally, he has demanded that women named Nami and Nico Robin be made slaves of the Uchiha clan. If they do not comply with the demands, they will be classified as traitors and executed." This made the Mugiwaras look at Sasuke with pure hatred, especially the girls for the fact that he wants them as slaves, and the Imo looked at them with an evil smile. Night sighed knowing that this would happen and looked at Sarutobi, who nodded. Then, he took a step forward and said in a serious voice, "Unfortunately, that will not be possible." Everyone looked at him with wide eyes and Hamura shouted angrily, "What do you mean? Even if you are protected by that law, nothing stops us from putting our authority over them. They will obey our demands and give Uchiha-sama what he desires." Night looked at them with an amused smile and then burst out laughing to everyone's surprise. "What are you laughing at, Darkness?" Danzo asked hatefully. "Ha ha 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 ha, seeing how you are simple boot-licking dogs who have no brains. Very well, if that's how you want to play, that's how we'll play. Sarutobi, take out the documents," Night said with a malicious smile. The old man took out a scroll from his pocket and showed it to everyone. "Have you heard of Project Darkness?" Night asked with an evil smile. "Project Darkness? What the hell is that?" asked an angry civilian. Night smiled even more and took out another scroll from his pocket as he said, "It is a clause that the first and second Hokage put in the law." Sarutobi read it. The Sandaime unrolled the scroll and proceeded to read. "As a sign of our gratitude to the Darkness clan for their great friendship and for everything they have done for our clans, we created the Darkness Project. In this law that protects them. This project dictates that any individual who is under the protection of the Darkness clan will also be immune from any demands of the council and the village. Those individuals will only be accountable to the leaders of the Darkness clan and the Hokage himself. If anyone outside the clan other than the Hokage demands anything from them, the leader of the Darkness clan has the authority to execute them or take whatever they have in retaliation. This project is supported by the leaders of the Senju and Uzumaki clan, Hashirama Senju, Tobirama Senju and Mito Uzumaki." Everyone was open-mouthed at what they heard and Danzo shouted angrily, "How is it possible that Hashirama and Tobirama gave you so many privileges?" Night looked at him with a calm look and said, "Well, I have a very long life like the Uzumakis, so I have seen both of them since they were young. I have saved both of them several times and I have been their closest friend. Even Mito got along with me to the point of seeing me as a brother, so the whole family loved me. They created this before they died as a thank you for everything I did for them." Danzo gritted his teeth as he saw that the biggest obstacle to his plans was a damned shinobi who had everything to gain in the village. Sasuke was filled with rage at seeing that a damn low-class sensei had more power than him in the village, and Night showed the scroll he had while saying, "This scroll is the official document of Project Darkness, and here are all the names of the Mugiwara group. Shikaku, could you verify the veracity of the document?" He passed the scroll to Shikaku, who verified it completely and said, "It's real and the names of all the members of the group plus a certain Hakuyuki are on the list." In short, they have become untouchable for this council, and we can't do anything. He returned the scroll to Knight, and he put it away while saying, Very well. Now you know that they cannot be touched by anyone, or they will have to deal with the Hokage or me. If anyone messes with them, I have every right to execute them or take away everything they have. And that goes for you too, Sasuke Uchiha. If you try to impose your will on any of them again, you can be sure that you will lose everything. He looked at Sasuke with dark eyes, and the Uchiha gritted his teeth as he saw that his entire plan had failed. Then Knight looked at the council and said, Now I will leave here with my people since there is nothing more to talk about. I recommend that you think before acting, or you may fall very low. Bye-bye. With that, he retreated with the Mugiwaras from the room, leaving everyone speechless. Then Hayashi said, I guess those guys are interesting. That boy Luffy has caused me interest. Now I see why my daughter chases him. Ha 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 ha, that boy is a mystery. He asked me if he doesn't dislike older, wild women. Some said happily. I liked him very well. And my daughter can't stop talking about him. Inoichi said with a smile. Well, if they are under the protection of the Darkness Clan, I guess we should stay put and not do anything against them, Shikaka said with a sigh. Sarutobi stood up from his seat and said, Well, since this is settled, you may leave. I hope there are no more issues like this one with Sasuke Uchiha. You better not conspire against them again, or I will take care of the matter myself. Sasuke growled under his breath and left the room with the others while cursing himself for everything that was happening. However, Danzo had a deadly look on his face and was planning something against the Jinchuriki and his companions. Chapter 18 – An Ally Appears. After that meeting, the Mugiwaras were walking towards the Uzumaki compound accompanied by Knight. That Amo, how dare he demand such a thing? He even asked for me and Robin to be his slaves. I swear I'll kill him the next time he tries something like that, Nami shouted angrily. Everyone agreed with what he said, but Knight had a serious face as he said, You don't have to worry about him anymore. That Uchiha no longer has the power to demand anything from you because I am the stone in his way. However, the one you should worry about is Danzo. Who is Danzo? Sanji asked worriedly. Did you see the 3 old men behind the Hokage? Well, the one who looks like a mummy is Danzo, Knight said coldly. That one-eyed man with a bunch of bandages on his body and a cane? What's so dangerous about an old man who surely can't fight? Zoro asked incredulously. It is not their ability to fight that they have to worry about, it is their ambition that is most dangerous. That man has a dark desire to command this village into a domain where he is the Hokage and Konoha rules over the entire world. It is a twisted ambition, and the worst thing is the methods he uses to achieve it: corruption, brainwashing, mind control, slavery, and even manipulating the offspring of individuals so that powerful soldiers are born for his army. He is the most dangerous being you will find in this world, Knight explained with cold words. Everyone was horrified by what they heard, and Nami said, How horrible to be, and what do you think she would do to us? Well, taking into account that they are people that Sasuke Uchiha classified as individuals who are overshadowing him, I fear that he will use the worst against you. To begin with, he will be interested in the power that the Uchiha demanded of you and will use mind control to obtain information from him, and then use you for his purposes. Then, he will have the strongest ones used as breeding machines to bring powerful soldiers into the world for his vow purpose, and with that, he will use them all to conquer Konoha, and most likely they will not even be aware of what they are doing. Knight explained seriously. But that makes us less than human. That bastard sees people as mere tools and takes away their freedom. I'm going to kick his ass, Luffy shouted furiously. But Knight stopped him and said, Unfortunately, you are in a situation where that will not work. You and your group live here, and attacking it would turn Konoha against you. That old man has been an important figure for many years due to his collaboration in past wars and has the favor of the council. Attacking him like they always do would be a bad idea. The best thing will be that we act sensibly, and I have a way so that he does not get to you. Which one? Robin asked, somewhat worried. Let's go to the complex, and there I will start with the plan, said Knight, continuing on his way. Thus, everyone continued on their way to the Uzumaki complex. A while later, at the complex, Knight was in one of the compound's sealing rooms with brushes and pots of special sealing ink when Nami entered the room. "Oh, you're next, Nami. I need you to strip down to your top and lie face down on that table," Knight said without turning around. Nami nodded and took off her top clothing as she trusted Knight for everything she had done for them. When she was naked on top, she lay face down on the stretcher and said, "I'm ready." Knight turned around with a brush and a pot of ink in his hands to walk towards her. Once in front of her, he proceeded to begin his work. "You will feel cold when you touch the brush, so I ask you to hold on or the work will go wrong," he told her seriously. Nami nodded, and just like that, Knight began to draw lines on Nami's back slowly. She felt a little ticklish on her body, but decided to endure it so Knight could do her work. "What I am telling you is something that Mito-san and I created a long time ago thinking about situations like Danzo's actions. We call this Absolute Protection Seal. This seal protects whoever possesses it from any attempt at control, brainwashing, memory modification, grape, in short, any evil attempt against you. It's a very special seal that we haven't told anyone about, and only Mito, Kushina, Minato, Jiraiya and a few other people could have possessed it," Knight explained with a smile. "Amazing, I didn't think a drawing could be so useful," Nami said in wonder. He, they may be simple drawings, but the seals are something that have saved the lives of many. That's why the Uzumakis were so feared in their time, and 3 powerful villages had to join together to end their small and peaceful village," said Knight happily. "So Luffy's mother in this world was amazing?" Nami asked in wonder. "Incredible is an understatement. That woman was what can be considered in your world as one of the most powerful women. She was from the village of Yuzu and was called the Princess of Yuzu," Knight said with amusement. "Was she a princess?" Nami asked in disbelief. "That's right. She was the daughter of the Yuzukage, and the Kage's family was considered royalty in that village. She was sent to Konoha after the fall of her village, and was trained by Mito Uzumaki herself to carry on her legacy. She was then trained by Senju Tsunade herself, and with that, she rose to the top among kunoichis, being surpassed only by Tsunade herself," Knight replied with a smile. Nami was amazed by how amazing Luffy's mother was in this world, and now she wanted to become like her. Ah, but she was very temperamental and dangerous. You couldn't make her angry, because if you don't you will meet the devil himself. I still remember that Jiraiya made the mistake of trying to spy on Minato and Kushina when they had their first time, just to put that event in her dirty book. According to what he told me, Kushina discovered him in the middle of the act, and she threatened him with her sword that if he published what he wrote and spied on them again in their intimate act, she would cut off what made him a man at the roots and make him eat it. Knight continued with some fear. Nami widened her eyes at that, and admired the woman even more. Knight stopped drawing with the brush and said, "All right, I'm done. Now you just have to wait a few minutes for it to dry and everything will be fine. With this, any attempt by Danzo to use them will be useless." "Thank you very much for what you have done for us, Knight-san," Nami said with a smile. "It's no big deal. I already see them as my family and I won't let anyone hurt them," Knight said with a big smile. Time after. They were all in another room of the complex while Knight looked at them all seriously. "Well, everyone already has the seal on their back, so we no longer have to worry about the mummy. Now I think it's time to bring someone else into the family," he said with a smile. "Someone else? What are you talking about, Knight?" Sanji asked without understanding. "Well, I haven't told you, but the one who caused Luffy and all of you to come here was me," Knight said with a smile. "What he?" Everyone shouted without being able to believe it. "But why did you bring Luffy to this world?" Nami asked after recovering from the shock. "Because I can't resurrect people in the same world. I can reincarnate them in another world and then send them to their world in the past to live it all over again. After all, even if I am a god, I have my limits," Knight said, shrugging his shoulders. Everyone saw him with a stunned face and asked, "Are you a god?" Knight scratched his head nervously and said, Yes. I came to this world at its beginning and I have been living with people like Hashirama, Tobirama, Mito, Minato and Kushina. A few years ago, I visited your world out of curiosity since I wanted to see something new, and I have seen your adventures with my own eyes. I marveled at what you were like, and when that battle happened, I decided to bring Luffy's soul to this world out of curiosity. I learned that Minato and Kushina were trying to have a child, and I manipulated everything so that Luffy would be born into their family. So, you could say that I was responsible for almost everything here, ha ha. Everyone looked at each other in surprise at such information, and Zoro asked, "And what do you mean when you say you'll bring someone with us?" "Well, just like I brought you, I can bring other people here as if I were summoning a creature. It is possible for me to bring several people to this world to accompany them, but I can only bring one every so often," Knight explained seriously. They all smiled, knowing that they could bring their friends into this world and they wouldn't be so alone. Then Luffy asked, "And who will you bring?" "Well, first I'll bring someone. I've seen her suffer a lot after you disappeared, and I felt sorry for her. Wait here while I do everything to bring her," said Knight, walking to the center of the room. Everyone watched as Knight covered his hand in darkness and bit his thumb before making seals. Then he slammed his hand on the ground and shouted, "Divine Invocation." Instantly, a burst of smoke formed throughout the room, and through it the female voice of a woman that Luffy recognized could be heard. "Oh, what's going on? Where I am? Why can't they let me mourn the death of my loved one in peace?" Luffy approached the place where the voice came from and said, "Hancock? Luffy? Are you here, Luffy?" the voice said, now with hope. When the smoke cleared, they could see a woman of great beauty, black hair, and looking at Luffy with great joy. "Is it really you, Luffy?" she asked again with more hope. Luffy smiled at him and said, "Yes, Hancock. It's me, and I'm very alive." Hancock smiled happily and threw herself into Luffy's arms to hug him with many tears while shouting, "Oh, Luffy, I'm so happy you're alive. I thought you had died and I didn't want to live." Luffy smiled as he looked at her between her breasts and said, "I'm glad to see you miss me. Now that you're here, we can have an adventure together." "That sounds great, but where are we? I don't recognize this place," said Hancock, looking around. "I can answer that. Let me introduce myself first. I am Night Darkness, and I am the one who brought your beloved into this world so I could save him. I will explain everything to you," said Night with a smile. And so, he proceeded to explain everything about how he brought Luffy and his nakamas to this world, and what they have been doing up until now. When he finished, Hancock was impressed by what she heard and said, "It's amazing everything that's happened, and I thank you for what you've done for my beloved. So, this is a ninja world and Luffy is one of them. It's wonderful." "That's right, and now we must prepare for what is to come. Tomorrow we will meet in the square to inform you of something important." "Well, I'll leave you for now and see you tomorrow," said Knight, leaving. When he left, Luffy looked at Sanji and said, "Sanji, prepare a good banquet to celebrate Hancock's arrival." "At your command," Sanji said, retreating. So Nami went to Hancock and said, "We can talk?" She looked at her with a frown and asked, "What do you want to talk about with me?" Nami knew that he would behave like that with her because of his love for Luffy, and she had an idea to make everything peaceful. "Listen, I know you love Luffy and I don't want to start a fight with you since I love him the same way too. That's why I want to propose that we form a sisterhood together with the other girls who also love him, since we won't be the only ones. After all, the important thing is to make Luffy happy and start a family with him, so a war between us will only cause him to go away. So, what do you say? Do we form the sisterhood?" she said, extending her hand. Hancock looked at her with a frown and asked, "If I form this brotherhood with you, will I finally be able to be with Luffy as his wife?" "Of course. As long as we get along and share the duty of supporting Luffy with his future family, his life, and his future, there won't be any problems," Nami said with a smile. Hearing that, Hancock smiled and shook hands with Nami as he said, "In that case, I'll come in. If I can be with Luffy as his wife, then I will share it with you." And so, after Knight placed the same seal on Hancock after explaining the dangers they faced, and he put his name on Project Darkness to keep her safe from the Council, a banquet was held that night to celebrate Hancock's arrival and the creation of the Pirate King's Wives Sisterhood. Chapter 19, Chunin Exams. Konoha, a few days later. After the mission in the waves, Luffy and his group are at the black-haired man's house, having just woken up in the morning and having breakfast to go to the meeting with Team 7. After having breakfast and being ready to leave, they headed to the location of your equipment. A while later, on the streets of Konoha. Sakura and Sasuke were on the streets of Konoha, waiting for Luffy, his group and their sensei to find out what they would tell them. After waiting for a while, they saw how Luffy arrived with his group of nakamas and said to them, "I'm here now." "Good morning, Luffy," Sakura said a little nervously. Sasuke just looked at them with pure hatred because of what happened at the council meeting and turned his gaze in anger. Sakura saw this and became concerned about the fact that Sasuke transmitted so much hatred towards Luffy and his group, wondering why she did it, although after what happened on the bridge, her opinion of Sasuke was no longer pleasant. "Well, now we must wait for Kakashi-sensei to find out what we will do. And knowing him, he'll surely be late," Luffy said with a sigh. "That bothers me about him. It's not enough to have a broken compass in our group, now we have a broken watch as sensei," Nami said with annoyance. "Hey! The broken compass thing wasn't necessary," Zoro shouted, offended. Then, Sakura noticed Hancock in the group and asked, "Who is she?" Hancock just looked at her with contempt, which made the pink-haired girl more nervous, and Nami said, "She's Boa Hancock. She's a friend of ours and also another of Luffy's fiancées." "Other? How can Luffy have so many beautiful fiancées? Damn, she's even 1,000 times more beautiful than me and Ino. I feel so depressed," Sakura said with a black cloud on her head. Everyone looked at her with some sweat, and Sasuke just gritted his teeth at the fact that Luffy kept getting what should be his, and because of that damn night he couldn't take it from him. But he decided to remain calm and wait for the council to find a way to give him what belongs to him, and teach that clanless commoner a great lesson. A few minutes later, Knight arrived at the meeting place with a smile and said, "Hi, it's good to see you're here." "Good morning, Knight-sensei," said everyone in Luffy and Sakura's group. Sasuke just looked at him with pure hatred, which Knight didn't care about, and the Sensei of Darkness noticed that someone was missing. "Don't tell me Kakashi hasn't shown up yet," he said with a sigh. "That's right, that scarecrow keeps coming back late. Couldn't you go get him, Sensei?" Nami shouted angrily. Knight shook his head and said sadly, "Unfortunately I can't. Kakashi has a reason for being late, and I respect that. I know it's annoying for him to be so late, but please be patient. It's best if we wait for him here and stay calm." Everyone could only accept what he said calmly and sat on the ground to wait for the slow scarecrow as calmly as they could. 3 hours later. "Hey guys. I got lost," Kakashi said, arriving with a grin. "Stop lying so far," Nami and Sakura yelled furiously. Knight looked at Kakashi with serious eyes and said, "Do you know that being late for a mission can be detrimental to a ninja? Every second counts in the success of our missions." Kakashi opened his eye in surprise at those words and remembered how he had said the same thing to his old friend. He smiled with his eye and said, Ma, don't worry. Even if you are late, there will be no problem with the mission. Relax a little." Knight growled at him in annoyance, and after that, Team 7 went on their mission for the day and then returned after having completed it. When they returned, Kakashi left them to deliver the report of the completed mission, and at that moment, Luffy could see a very peculiar rock behind him. "Really? When will he learn that rocks aren't square?" he thought with a smile. The others also noticed this, and Luffy just kicked the rock a little, causing it to let out a groan, and Nami said, "Come on, Konohamaru. What kind of rock is square with 2 holes? Come out now and show yourself." At that moment, 3 children came out of the square rock who looked at Luffy's group with a smile, and the one in the middle said, "You're amazing, just what I expected from my rival." The Mugiwara saw them with a smile, seeing the one in the middle, a boy with spiky brown hair, with a scarf around his neck and glasses like his costume. Next to him was a boy with snot coming out and a girl with orange hair and 2 upward pigtails. They both had the same glasses that Luffy had before, and Nami asked him sweetly, "What are they wearing those glasses for?" Konohamaru smiled and showed him the glasses as he said, We dress like the boss, Wani-chan." "I see. And what are they here for? Luffy asked again. Are you free leader? The girl asked with a smile. Nami bowed before her and caressing her hair she said, I'm sorry, but we are busy and we must train. What? But they said they would play ninjas with us today, Konohamaru shouted angrily. Oh, so you're playing ninjas with these kids, Luffy? Hancock asked when she saw them. The three children saw Hancock and Sakura, so Konohamaru asked Luffy. Who is that cute Oni-chan, Oni-chan? Is she your new girlfriend? This made Hancock blush at her words, Sakura growled at being labeled inferior to Hancock, and Luffy just said, Konohamaru, it's not good to point at people and say something like that about them. She is my girlfriend, and she is someone who will be with us from today on. Hancock looked at him with hearts in her eyes at being called one of his girlfriends, and Konohamaru looked at him with a frown as he said, Well, she is much more beautiful than any woman I have ever seen, and I am sure they will make a good couple. This made Hancock's eyes open, and she hugged the little boy to her chest while saying, You're so cute, Konohamaru-kun. I hope Luffy and I have a child like you someday. This made Konohamaru feel like he was in heaven for some reason, and in Luffy's world, a certain shogun felt that someone was getting what he lost. Then, Sasuke looked at the children with contempt, and said mockingly, So these kids are playing at being ninjas like idiots? As always, commoners only dream of what the elite like us Uchiha can have. Konohamaru and Hancock glared at him, and the boy yelled, Shut up, you stupid duck-ass hairdo. Luffy, Oni-chan is way better than you. Konohamaru-kun is right. You will never be better than Luffy, you damn commoner. Hancock shouted at him with contempt. These words sent the Uchiha into a rage, and he lunged at the poor boy with a kunai in his hand. Konohamaru ran away to escape the furious Uchiha, and Luffy was worried about him, so he and his group ran to stop a possible massacre. But as they turned the corner, Konohamaru ran into a boy who was wearing a scarf with cat ears and had what looked like makeup on his face. That hurt, you piece of shit, the boy said furiously while holding Konohamaru by the scarf. The girl with blonde hair and 4 spiky pigtails looked at him with a sigh and said, Do not do it. Then they will call our attention. Konohamaru-kun, Nami and Hancock shouted, very worried. Luffy looked at them with analytical eyes and could see from their bands that they were also ninjas. Sakura looked at everything with fear and said to the strangers, worried about Konohamaru, Sorry, we were just playing. Hey, transvestite. Let him go. Nami shouted furiously. Sakura frowned at her for a moment, and the boy just looked at her with a smile, noticing that she was from Konoha because of her ninja band, and said, Let's play for a while before the boss comes. Luffy was suspicious of this, but decided to find out his combat style. He lunged like a fool at the boy and could see how he moved his fingers, and then he was thrown away by something that Luffy could see with his observation haki, as well as those who could use it. As he fell to the ground, the boy smiled evilly and said, The genin of the leaf are weak. Sakura looked at them with wide eyes upon discovering that they were not from the village and thought, Then they are foreigners. Because of their bands they must be from Suna. What are our allies doing here? Hancock, on the other hand, glared at the Suna boy and thought, Damned, how dare he do that to Luffy? Instead, Luffy just looked at the boy seriously and thought, So a puppet? I should have guessed. After all, I read that Suna is where puppet users are prevalent. He got up from the ground and Nami yelled at the boy in anger. Hey, transvestite, if you don't let him go, you'll pay for this fat-ass idiot. This made the boy angry and he said, You are making me angry. Honestly. I hate children. Especially the rude little ones. They make me want to kill them. This caused everyone to look at him seriously, and the girl from Suna only said, Oh well. I don't want to get involved in this. You bastard, Nami shouted furiously. Sakura looked at the two of Suna seriously and thought, What's wrong with you? This is going badly. The boy looked at Konohamaru with an evil smile and preparing his fist, he said, Well, after this I'll take care of that beautiful girl. He prepared to hit Konohamaru, and Luffy decided to get involved in this since he didn't want his pupil to be killed. However, they all heard a scream near them that said, Kankuro, stop it. You are a disgrace to our village. Everyone raised their heads to see a red-haired boy with a pumpkin on his back looking at them with killing intent. Luffy looked at him seriously as he could sense something dark in him, and the named Kankuro could only say in fear, "Go. Go. Losing control in a fight, how pathetic. Why do you think we came to the Leaf Village?" said the one named Gaara with a dark voice. "Listen, Gaara. They started and..." Kankuro tried to say. But Gaara just looked at him with murderous eyes and said, "Shut up or I'll kill you." This made Kankuro and the girl tremble as much as the puppeteer could only say, "Okay, I'm sorry." "I'm sorry too, I'm really sorry," said the girl with fear. Gaara looked at Luffy's group and using a sand shunshin to appear in the middle of his companions he said, "Excuse me, my friends. It seems we're early, but we didn't come here to play." "I already know that," Kankuro said with terror. Gaara just looked at Luffy with analytical eyes and said, "Let's go." However, Sakura decided to intervene to get some information for her team. "Wait, judging by their ninja bands, they are ninjas from the Hidden Sand Village. They may be allies of the Leaf, but ninjas are forbidden from entering another village without permission. Tell us your purposes. Depending on that, we might let you leave here or not." The Suna girl looked at her with an arrogant smile and said, "Ha, talking so much without having a clue. Don't they know anything?" This puzzled Sakura and the rest, while the Suna girl continued to explain with an amused smile. "You're right. We are genin from the Hidden Sand Village. We have come to your village to take the Chunin selection exam." "Chunin selection exam?" Zoro asked interested. "TCH, they really don't know anything. The Chunin exam is where prominent genin from the Sand, Leaf, and other neighboring villages gather to take an exam to become Chunin. It is said that the main purpose is to improve relations between allies and to increase the ninja level. But it is also to maintain the balance of power between countries and," explained the girl from Suna with total seriousness. "Hey, Konohamaru, do you think I should go in for that Chunin exam thing?" Luffy asked with a smile. "Idiots, you asked, so listen to the end," the furious girl shouted at them. But Gaara just stepped forward and asked, "Hey, what's your name?" Everyone looked at him strangely for that question and Sasuke said with an arrogant smile, "Sasuke Uchiha?" "Not you," he asked. "That boy with the straw hat," said Gaara pointing at Luffy. This left everyone in shock, Gaara's classmates not knowing why he was interested in that boy and the others because the redhead had been able to discover Luffy's true potential. The captain just remained calm in his place while he thought that this boy was not like the others, and a certain little voice inside him said, "Maldito Tanuki." He wondered what that voice was, but smiled defiantly as he said to Gaara, "Soy monkey de Luffy Uzumaki." Gaara smiled madly and said, "Mother wants your blood and she will have it. Let's go." And in that way, he and his companions left the place while the others watched them leave with their own thoughts. Luffy just watched the group leave with a smile and said, "Well, I guess we shouldn't worry about them until the Chunin exams. Well, let's go back to the house to get ready for those exams." Everyone nodded and followed him towards the Uzumaki compound. While Sasuke left furious about what happened, Sakura returned to her house impressed by what she had seen, and three figures saw them on top of a tree. "So what do you think?" asked one of the two boys. "Well, nothing serious, but the one with black hair on the leaf, the one in the sand with the pumpkin, and that boy with the leaf that the one in the sand mentioned, we have to keep an eye on them," said the one with bandages with serious eyes. Chapter 20: Entrance to the Exams. The next day, Team 7 was standing on the village bridge waiting for Kakashi, when he appeared 3 hours later. "Hello, people, I got lost on the path of life." "Liar, Buck you!" Nami and Sakura yelled furiously. Knight smiled with amusement and took out several documents that he handed to the Mugiwaras at the same time that Kakashi did the same with Sakura and Sasuke, while he said, "Well, anyway, we have nominated you for the Chunin exams. Here are your applications." Luffy and the Mugiwaras looked at the documents with curiosity, and Usopp asked, "Knight-sensei, how important is it to rank up here? How important is the Chunin rank in the ninja world?" Knight and Kakashi looked at each other at this question, and Knight said with a smile, "Well, we can take the ranks in the ninja world as the titles given to pirates in their world, since both could be measured by the power of the individual. Let's see, the title of Genin could be compared to a rookie pirate starting his adventure. The title of Chunin could be put in the same position as a supernova. The title of Jounin could be compared to a Yonko because of the fame a Jounin can obtain in the ninja world. And lastly, the title of Kage is equal to that of Pirate King for being the title of the most powerful ninja in the village. Therefore, rising in rank is very important if you want to advance in this world." "It sounds logical," Robin said, agreeing. "Then, I'll have to rank up to reach the title of Kage," Luffy said excitedly. Everyone took the documents calmly, and Kakashi continued, "Think that this is just a nomination. To take the exam or not is their decision, although I imagine they will. If you want to do it, you must sign those papers and hand them in tomorrow in room 301 at 4 p.m. That's all." With that, he disappeared in a shunshin of leaves, and Knight said some last words to them. "In these exams, you will have to use everything you know to be able to advance. Trust each other, your abilities, and above all, don't die. See you later." And with that, he disappeared, leaving everyone a little nervous, though the Uchiha just left thinking that this was a piece of cake for him. Luffy looked at his group and said, "We'd better go to the compound to prepare. We need to analyze our skills and get enough rest." Everyone nodded and headed towards the Uzumaki compound, while Sakura looked at them with a depressed face and thought, "I can't even compare to them, and now the Chunin exam." And he headed home sadly because of how weak he felt. The next day, Team 7 had arrived at the academy with Luffy and his group ready to take the exams. "Are you ready?" Luffy asked with a smile. "Of course, let's demonstrate the power of the Mugiwaras," Usopp said with emotion. Sasuke looked at them with hatred for that enthusiasm that he thought was stupid, and Sakura looked at them with some envy for that same enthusiasm. Luffy looked at the academy and said, "All right, let the adventure begin." As they entered the academy, they saw a commotion at one of the classroom entrances, and upon looking, they could see a boy with black bowl-shaped hair and very large eyebrows lying on the ground because of two boys at the entrance. "How are you planning on taking the Chunin exam with that? You should retire." "You're just a child," said one of them, looking at them with a smile. Yes, said the other, also smiling. "Please let us pass," said a girl with brown hair and two buns. She approached the two boys, but was knocked away by a blow that the others couldn't see, except for Team 7 who had seen everything. "Horrible," said one of the genin upon seeing this. One of the boys looked at him coldly and said, "What have you said? Listen, this is kindness. These exams are not easy, even we have failed 3 times in a row. Some who take this exam end up retiring as ninjas, some die during the exam, we have seen it all. And Chunin usually become team captains. The failure of the mission, the death of a comrade. All of that is the captain's responsibility. Do you still think that some kids like you can pass?" But then, Sasuke appeared before everyone and said arrogantly, "They're going to let me through, and they're also going to undo that stupid genjutsu." Everyone looked at him with wide eyes, and Sakura realized what Sasuke was saying, so she said with a smile, "That's right, we're going to the 3rd floor, and this is the 2nd. The two boys looked at them with a frown, and Luffy just said with a sigh, "They are both stupid." Sasuke and Sakura looked at him with frowns at those words, and Nami said seriously, "Even we, who have not known about these exams, know that this is just a way to eliminate more competition. Only someone truly intelligent would realize the original purpose behind genjutsu. You two have only made the number of participants higher than expected." Sasuke gritted his teeth at being called stupid by the orange-haired girl, and Sakura felt really stupid for what she did. The two boys smiled, and after dispelling the genjutsu, revealing that they were two Chunin, one of them said, "They are both very smart. They have managed to discover the true purpose of this, and to us, they are more intelligent than those who have only discovered genjutsu. Well, you can continue on your way, and good luck in these exams, promising young people." Luffy and Nami looked at each other with a big smile at the praise, and their group continued on their way, while an angry Sasuke followed them with hatred and an impressed Sakura also followed them. However, on their way they met the boy with huge eyebrows and the girl with bun hair accompanied by a boy who had a cold look. The boy with eyebrows approached Sakura and said, "Hello? My name is Rock Lee and you are Sakura. Let's go out together, I will protect you with my life." Sakura hid behind Luffy and said to Lee, "Don't even dream about it, you're weird." Lee lowered his head in depression at those words and Nami said to Sakura seriously, "It's okay that you don't like it, but you don't have to despise it like that either." Then, the cold-eyed boy approached and said, "Hey you? What's your name?" Everyone looked at him in surprise, as he was talking to Luffy and the captain of the Mugiwaras said to him with a smile, "Monkey D. Luffy Uzumaki, I am the one who will surpass everyone and become the future king of the pirates." The boy looked at him stoically and said, "Fine. I am Niji Hyuga and I will teach you that this is not your destiny." With that, he retreated with his teammates, leaving Team 7 with cold sweat running down their backs. "What's wrong with that boy?" Sanji asked, somewhat annoyed. "I didn't like what he said, Luffy. You must teach him that destiny does not decide your life and that you will achieve your dream no matter what stupid destiny says," Nami said angrily. Luffy just remained calm, watching as this Niji guy went to the classroom, and in that way, they continued on their way to take the exam, but were stopped by Lee, who yelled at Sasuke, "Hey you, the one with the dark eyes." Everyone looked at him with a frown and Sasuke asked with a cocky smile, "What's happening?" Lee looked at him with eyes full of fighting intent and said, "Can you fight me right here?" This left everyone wide-eyed and Sasuke said petulantly, "Do you really want to fight an Uchiha? It will be your biggest mistake." Lee just made his combat pose and said, "I'm asking you. There are 2 reasons why I want to fight you." "And what are they?" Sasuke asked, putting on an arrogant smile. "1. Because I want to test my techniques against the offspring of a clan of geniuses, and 2. Lee said seriously and then looked at Sakura. She looked at him in fear and Lee blew her a kiss that she only agilely evaded by getting behind Luffy. "Please stop throwing such weird things at me," Sakura said pleadingly. "I told you not to be so rude with him," Nami said annoyed. But Sasuke looked at Lee with eyes full of contempt and said petulantly, "Challenging me even though you know I'm an Uchiha. Honestly, you're an idiot. I'll teach you what this name means, you damn eyebrows." Everyone looked at him in disgust at his words and Sakura noticed on the clock that they were late, so she said to Sasuke, "Wait, Sasuke, we only have 30 minutes to sign up." But Sasuke said arrogantly, "This will only last 5 minutes. Saying that, he launched himself at the brow with an arrogant smile, while he only looked at him seriously and thought, "Here it comes. Excuse me, Guy-sensei. I might be breaking your rules. I might need to use that move." Then, to everyone's surprise, Lee disappeared like a blur and quickly reappeared on top of the Uchiha to give him a quick kick. "Is fast and his combat style is similar to mine," Sanji shouted when he saw the fight. "I'd say it's some sort of combination of my fighting style with yours, Sanji. It seems to combine strength, power, and speed to perform a fighting style that can rival ours over time," Luffy said, analyzing Lee's way of fighting. They saw how Sasuke was unable to dodge Lee's kick and had no choice but to block it. However, everyone was surprised to see that the kick increased in speed and managed to hit the Uchiha's face, sending him flying. "But I had blocked it," Frankie shouted, impressed. "Transfer your block with speed and power. That eyebrowed boy is good," said Luffy with a smile. Sasuke stood up in pain and looked at Lee with an arrogant smile as he said, "Heh, now you'll regret having challenged me. You will be the first to test my great power as an Uchiha." And instantly, everyone saw those red eyes with 2 black tomos in each one that looked at Lee very petulantly. "The Sharingan," Sakura said in amazement. Luffy and his group watched the fight with interest, waiting for the outcome of this fight, although Luffy already suspected who would win between the two, and Sasuke launched himself at Lee while thinking, "Ninjutsu or Genjutsu? It must be some kind of trick. I'll find out." But everyone watched with wide eyes as Sasuke was kicked in the chin by Lee's foot and sent flying upwards. "What?" The Sharingan couldn't read it, this can't be, Sasuke thought angrily. Luffy looked at this with a serious expression and said, I knew it. Lee looked at Sasuke in the air and said seriously, Yes, my techniques are not ninjutsu or genjutsu. With that, he disappeared to reappear in the air behind the Uchiha, and continued saying with the same seriousness, Yes, my techniques are simply taijutsu, Sasuke-kun. You may not believe it because it is so basic, but it is said that the Sharingan has the ability to detect all types of ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu. It is true that to read ninjutsu and genjutsu that need chakra and seals to be performed, you have the advantage with the Sharingan. But taijutsu is a little different. Even if you read my movements with your eyes, your body does not have enough speed to react to my taijutsu. Basically, even if you can see it, if your body does not move, then it is useless. Then, the bandages on his arms unwound and began to cover the Uchiha, as Lee continued saying, Do you know this? Among strong people there are geniuses and those who work hard. If your Sharingan is of the genius type because of Uchiha blood, I am simply one of the hard-working type who has perfected only taijutsu. It can be said that my definitive taijutsu is the worst opponent for your Sharingan, and I will show you with this technique. That hard work surpasses genius. However, the bandages were stuck to the wall by a windmill and everyone could hear a voice saying, That's enough, Lee. Everyone looked to the source to find a turtle looking at them with serious eyes. What is that turtle? Sakura asked confused. Sasuke and Lee fell to the ground upon hearing the turtle's voice, with the Uchiha falling like a sack of potatoes and the brow falling elegantly. Guy-sensei, was she watching her? Lee shouted with tears. Then a smoke screen exploded above the turtle as the same voice said, Here comes Guy-sensei, you are the living example of youth. Before the three of them appeared a man in horrible green spandex and an appearance similar to Lee's but in an older version. Who is that? Nami shouted in horror. Ah, my eyes! Sanji shouted, covering his eyes. It's horrible, Robin said calmly. He smiled at them with a bright smile and asked, Hello, young guys. How is Kakashi? Do you know our sensei? Sakura asked, surprised. Know him? Hee, Guy said with a smile. Then, he disappeared from the spot, shocking Team 7 a little as they had seen him disappear and were just surprised at how fast he was, then reappeared behind them while saying, People refer to us as eternal rivals. Everyone turned around looking at him with open eyes and Guy continued. 50 wins, 49 losses. I am stronger than Kakashi. Incredible. He is faster than Kakashi. Will he be human? Sasuke thought, surprised. A speed worthy of a jounin. Although our speed is a little higher. Luffy thought with a frown. They see him? Guy-sensei is incredible, Lee said with admiration. Forgive Lee for his request. I swear on this face that it will not happen again. I swear on this beautiful face, Guy said to the group with a bright smile. Then he looked at his student and said, Come on, Lee, you must make your way on the path of youth. Hi, Guy-sensei, Lee said enthusiastically. And with that, they both disappeared from the place, leaving everyone speechless. They were silent for a while, until Luffy laughed amused and said, Heh. This test just got a lot more fun. Are you ready, team? The Mugiwaras smiled at their excitement and said, Of course. Sasuke and Sakura could only follow them with their own expressions and walked until they reached the door that said 301, and there they saw Kakashi with Knight waiting for them. I see you've arrived. With everyone present, we can begin the exam properly, Kakashi said upon seeing them. What do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked worriedly. It refers to the fact that the exam must be taken by all members of the team. If one does not participate, the rest will not either. Kakashi told them that they could take it individually to make the decision for themselves. If one of you had decided not to participate, the rest would have been kicked out of the exam, Knight explained seriously. So you lied to us? Nami asked, looking at Kakashi angrily. As Knight said, if I had told them, maybe not everyone would have come. If Luffy and his group had shown up alone, They would not have been able to take the exam and would have to return to the academy. But they have come of their own free will, so I feel proud. Now go, Kakashi said with a nice smile. The three of them smiled at his words and entered the room while saying, "Yeah, come on." Chapter 21, The First Exam. As they entered to take the first test, everyone could see the first test room filled with many ninjas who looked at them with a cold gaze. They could see that there were ninjas from their own village and at the same time, ninjas from other villages such as Suna and Oto. How many people? Are all of them going to take the exam? They look strong, Sakura thought with fear. At that moment, a girl with platinum blonde hair and a ponytail lunges at Luffy and yells, "Luffy-kun, you're late. I haven't seen you in a long time. I've been waiting for you with great excitement." Luffy gave a kind smile to the blonde on top of him and Sakura yelled at Ino angrily, "Stay away from Luffy, Ino pig." Then, the girl saw Sakura and said, "Isn't that Sakura? With that huge, ugly forehead as always." "What did you say? Anyway, Ino pig, why are you being so friendly with Luffy? I thought he was just a nobody to you." "Of course I don't think that way about him. He may have been a prankster and clown at the academy, but he is still friendly and fun. I think he's cute, and if Sasuke hadn't been a good option, I would have chosen Luffy-kun as my partner without hesitation," Ino said seriously. Nami smiled at his words and said, "Well, I congratulate you. I'm glad you realize that Luffy is a great person. If you decide to be with him finally, you are welcome to the family." Ino looked at her with some confusion at those words and then, a boy with pineapple-shaped hair appeared while saying, "Are you also going to take this stupid exam? Don't go to die." Luffy saw him accompanied by a boy with a lot of weight and said, "Oh, my son Shikamaru and Choji. It's a pain to see you, Luffy," said the pineapple-haired boy. Zoro approached him and said, "How's it going? Tired and wanting to sleep?" Shikamaru looked at him lazily and said, "Yeah. I just wanted to stay home and look at the clouds. Boy, this is problematic. If it weren't for my mother forcing me to come, I would be resting at home." "Well, you have a hard time, friend," Sanji said sadly. At that moment, a voice behind them said, "Yahoo, I found you well. Well, we are all gathered." Everyone turned to see a hooded boy, 2 fang marks on his cheeks and a white dog on his head. Next to him came a boy with black glasses, a coat that covered almost his entire body except for his face, and who had a disinterested look. Next to them was Hinata, who had the shy girl's expression of hers. "Ugh, you too?" Shikamaru asked with annoyance. "I see. The 9 rookies, well, 18 rookie genin of this year are going to take the exam. I'd like to know how far we'll go, huh, Sasuke?" said the one in the hood looking at Sasuke with a challenging smile. "PFFF, I see you're confident, Kiba," Sasuke said arrogantly. "We have trained a lot. We won't lose to you," Kiba said with a wild smile. Luffy looked at him with a frown and said, "Hey, Kiba, you better pay attention to the others. I can assure you that my group and I are very difficult competition for you. It is not a good idea to underestimate ourselves." Excuse us, LL Luffy-kun. Kiba-kun didn't mean that," Hinata said with her shyness. Luffy looked at her with a smile and said, "Calm down, Hinata. I'm sure you know how strong we are and at the same time, you have prepared yourself to win. I know how strong you can be and I am sure that you will achieve your dream while passing this exam." "Yes, Hinata, Luffy is right. You must trust yourself and move forward like us towards your dream," Nami said excitedly. Hinata blushed a lot because of the support they were giving her, and Luffy looked at his companions while thinking with emotion. "This is getting more exciting." They were all talking excitedly, when a voice behind them said, "Hey guys, they should calm down a little." Everyone turned and looked at a silver-haired boy wearing glasses in front of them with a smile that made Luffy suspicious. "You're the rookies who just left the academy, right? Yelling like schoolgirls isn't right. This isn't a picnic," the boy said calmly. They noticed how the ninjas around them looked at them with murderous eyes, and the boy continued with a malicious smile. "Everyone is nervous about the exam. So calm down before you cause a scene." "Well, I shouldn't threaten them. You are harmless newbies. They remind me of myself before. Nami looked at him suspiciously and asked, So this is your second time? No. It's the 7th. This exam is given twice a year, so this is my 4th year. How about I show you the information I have? Said the boy, showing some cards. Cards? What are they doing? Usopp asked curiously. But some looked at the cards with caution, and the boy smiled slyly as he said, They are basically cards that have information that can be selected with chakra. I have 4 years of information here, more than 200 letters. They look blank, but to open the information on these cards. He put his finger on one of the cards and instantly, the blank surface changed to a diagram with the information of a shinobi. Wow, an easy-to-read chart. What kind of information is this? Kiba asked, looking at the card. This is the information of a shinobi participating in these exams. Is there anyone you're worried about? The boy asked with a sly smile. Sasuke smiled arrogantly and said, Gaara of the Sand, Rock Lee of the Leaf, and Monkey D. Luffy Uzumaki of the Leaf. The boy whistled at such requests and said, Interesting rivals. Alright, this is getting interesting. He took 4 cards and put chakra on them while everyone looked at him waiting for what he would say. Okay, first Rock Lee. He is a year older than you. Mission history: D rank equals 25 completed, C rank equals 15 completed, and 1A rank completed. His sensei is Guy. His taijutsu has improved a lot these years. Otherwise he is not impressive. Last year he gained attention by defeating a Chunin rank shinobi, but he did not participate in the exam. It's like you guys, this is his first time. On his team are Niji Hyuga and Ten, said the boy with a smile. Everyone was surprised by the information on the eyebrow, and the boy looked at the second card to say, Next is Gaara from the desert. Mission history: C rank equals 8, B rank equals 1. Wow, a B rank mission for a genin. How he's a visitor from another country, I don't have much information, but it seems he came back from all the missions without a scratch. Team 7's eyes widened at this information, and Sasuke wondered how he hadn't even gotten a scratch. The boy was about to give Luffy the information, but Luffy just threw a shuriken at the card, destroying it in the process. Why did you do that? It took me a long time to get that information, Kabuto yelled angrily. Luffy just looked at him with power and said, I don't want my information to be given to the competition. It would be very boring. Kabuto looked at him with narrowed eyes, and then Sasuke turned to all the participants to shout with all his arrogance. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, and you will fall before my power. This made most of them look at him with murderous eyes. His crew looked at him with a drop of sweat, and Luffy thought with a sigh, Yes, these exams will definitely be exciting. In the waiting room, everyone was looking at each other with a killing intent, and Team 7 could feel it on their skin. Then, a sound ninja launched himself at Kabuto with his mech on his arm ready and threw a punch at his face. Kabuto dodged it easily, but his glasses were destroyed as if he had been hit by something invisible, leaving almost everyone in shock. What happened? He dodged it. How did he do that to his glasses? Sanji asked without being able to understand it. Then, Kabuto started vomiting on the ground to everyone's surprise, while Luffy looked at the sound team seriously. How pathetic, especially from a 4-year veteran. Write this in your letters. The 3 ninjas of sound, the future Chunin, said the ninja who attacked him with a terrifying expression. Luffy's group looked at them with cold eyes until a cloud of smoke appeared before everyone and a dark voice said, Keep your mouths shut, you bastards. Everyone turned to see a certain Jounin with scars, a scarf on his head and an unfriendly look, appear before everyone along with several ninjas with a threatening appearance. Thank you for waiting. I am Ibiki Marino, the examiner of the first test of the Chunin exam. Sound guys, stop doing whatever you want before the exam. Do you want to be suspended? Ibiki said with a sadistic smile. The 3 sound shinobi looked at him neutrally, and the leader just walked away while saying, Sorry, it's our first time. We'll be careful next time. Bah! This is a good opportunity to say this. They will not fight without my permission, even if they are going to kill each other. I will not tolerate it. Those pigs fail immediately, is that clear? Ibiki said with a voice that was too scary. Almost everyone looked at him in dread, but Luffy and his nakamas only smiled at these words, something that Ibiki noticed as he smiled. Now we will begin with the first Chunin exam. Instead of taking the seat you want, you will take a number and sit where it is assigned to you. Then we will hand out the exams, he said, showing a card with a number. A written exam? I suck at these exams, Luffy thought with a bored sigh. They took their cards and sat down at seat number 47 next to Hinata, who wished him good luck on the exam. Sasuke sat a little away from him and Sakura sat close to Luffy, while the Mugiwaras took seats in various parts of the room. Don't turn the exam over yet. Listen to what I have to say. There are important rules in this first exam. I'll write them down as I explain them to you. No questions are allowed, so listen carefully, Ibiki said as he looked at everyone with icy eyes. Rules? What does this mean? Sakura thought without understanding anything. The first rule, you start with 10 points. The exam is 10 points, if you fail one question you will lose 1 point. In this exam you will lose points. Basically, if you answer all the questions, you will keep the 10 points. But if you fail 3 questions, you will lose 3 points, and you will have 7 left, Ibiki explained without emotion. In other words, if I fail all of them I will be left with 0 points, thought Luffy with some nerves. The second rule, this is a team exam. Passing or failing will be determined by your team's score. So, teams will compete to see who maintains the most points out of the initial 30. Ibiki continued as he wrote. That means if one of us fails, the rest of the team will fail too, Nami thought seriously. Okay, and now for the most important rule. Third rule, during the exam, if you are caught cheating by any of the examiners, you will be deducted 2 points. Therefore, you may lose all your points during the exam and be expelled. We have our eyes on you. Make a pathetic attempt at cheating and you will be struck down. To be a Chunin level ninja, be a cautious ninja, Ibiki continued with a malicious smile. Some of the Mugiwaras frowned at him, and Sanji thought. Cheating on tests? I understand that it is wrong to do so, but there is something strange about this rule. And the last rule, if one loses all of his points during the exam, he will be suspended along with his classmates, Ibiki concluded with a death glare. This left Sakura open-mouthed since she thought Luffy sucked at the written exams. Nami looked at Luffy with a supportive smile, and she knew that he would make it through this test. The exam lasts an hour. Start, Ibiki shouted, starting the exam. Hearing this, everyone turned over their exam sheet to begin the test. Luffy looked at his exam with a frown as he noticed the difficult questions he had been given and broke out in a cold sweat from this cruel battle. Meanwhile, Sasuke and Sakura were calm as one copied the answers with his Sharingan, and the other responded normally. The rest of the Mugiwaras were doing their exam in their own way, and some had managed to discover the true purpose of it. I understand now. This is a test to examine your ability to gather information, Nami thought with a smile. The trick is to get information from others without getting caught. In other words, copy the information you need without getting caught, Sanji thought wryly. This is similar to my work in the past. Gathering valuable information and making sure you don't get discovered. Fufufu, this takes me back to the old days, Robin thought with a smile. Time passed and many participants were suspended for cheating until time ran out, and Ibiki said, Okay. Now we will say the 10th question. Everyone looked at him attentively, waiting for what the question would be, and the instructor smiled as he said, Before I say it, I will tell you the rules of this question. These are the rules of desperation. First, for the 10th question, you must answer whether you answer it or not. This left most in shock, and Sakura tensed at this. Choose? What happens if we don't choose her? Tamari asked without understanding. Ibiki looked at her with an internal smile as he thanked her for this opportunity to put more fear into everyone and replied. If you don't answer it, your points will be reduced to 0. You will fail along with the 2 members of your team. What does that mean? Shouted one of the participants. Then of course we will decide to answer it, said another. But Ibiki smiled evilly and continued. And now the other rule: if you choose to answer it, and you get it wrong, that person will lose the right to take the Chunin exam forever. This left almost everyone in shock, and one of the participants shouted, "What kind of stupid rule is that? There are guys here who have taken the test before." Ibiki laughed evilly at this, and most looked at him in fear. "You're out of luck. This is my year, these are my rules. But I'll give you another way out. You can choose not to answer it and try again next year," he said in a terrifying voice. Most of them looked at him with sweat coming down from their bodies, while those remembered smiled at this fun. Now the 10th question begins. If you don't want to answer it, raise your hand. When your number is confirmed, you can leave," said Ibiki, concluding the explanation. Instantly, several participants left the room as they gave up, and the number of genins in the room was decreasing more and more. Luffy and his team watched this calmly when the Mugiwaras noticed how Luffy raised his hand with some trembling under the perplexed gaze of Ibiki and those who knew him. "Luffy?" Sakura thought as she saw him. "What is this idiot up to?" Sasuke thought, somewhat angrily. "What are you doing, Luffy?" all the Mugiwaras thought when they saw him. And before everyone's stunned gaze, Luffy slammed his hand against the desk and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Do not underestimate me, I will not run, I'll answer it even if I'm a genin forever, I'll be the next Hokage and future pirate king anyway, so I'm not careful, I'm not afraid." Everyone looked at him with wide eyes, and Nami smiled proudly as she thought, "Well done, Luffy! You are proving to be the best." Ibiki looked at him with a malicious smile and said, "I'll ask you again. Your life depends on your decision. This is your last chance not to answer it." Luffy looked at him with eyes full of challenge and determination to say, "I will keep my words. I never turn back from my path. If necessary, I will kick your ass so I can pass this exam and achieve my dream." Everyone looked at him with pride at that statement, and Ibiki smiled at the Uzumaki's determination as he thought, "This Brad is interesting. I take away the concerns of others, and now there are almost 87 left. More than I expected." I looked at the other examiners to see if it was time and said, "Good decision. Now all I have to say is, congratulations on passing the first exam." Most of those left looked at him in confusion, and after a few seconds, a single question could be heard in the air. "Kui?" To the remaining 87. "Congratulations on passing the first exam," Ibiki said with an amused smile. Everyone was speechless, and Sakura asked, "Wait. What does that mean? Have we really passed? What about the 10th question?" Ibiki smiled widely and said, "There has never been a thing like this. You can say that the 10th was choosing whether to do it or not." This made everyone's eyes open, and Temari shouted in disbelief, "Hey, so what about the remaining 9 questions? There are still 9 points left." "There are no more points left. They have met the objective. This exam was to test your ability to gather information. That was the purpose," Ibiki said happily. "What a change of personality," thought the Mugiwaras, looking at him with a drop of sweat. "Collect information?" Temari asked without understanding. "First, the rules I explained. Success depended on how the team did it. It was put in place to make some members feel bad for their peers. The exam questions could not be answered by genins. So, I'm sure most people have come to the same conclusion. To get points, they had to copy. Basically, the goal of this exam was to cheat. The target for copying were 2 chunins who knew all the answers to help them answer the questions," Ibiki explained seriously. "Man, it was safe to find that guy," said one of the participants with a laugh. "But some tricks will fail, of course," Ibiki said as he took off his headgear. As he did so, everyone was speechless as they saw that his head had burns, screw holes, and scratches, proof that he had been tortured in his life as a shinobi. Luffy and his nakamas were the only ones who remained calm as they had seen scars like those from some of their world's enemies. Sometimes, information is more important than your life. And on missions and on the battlefield, people risk their lives to get it," Ibiki explained with eyes full of experience. Everyone looked at him with trembling because of his scars, and the Jounin continued as he put the protector back on his head. If the enemy or a third person finds out, there is no guarantee that the information is reliable. I hope you remember, important information in your hands can be a powerful weapon for your comrades and your village. So get information without anyone else finding out. And so we eliminate the worst. But I still don't understand the last question, Temari said with a drop of sweat. Ibiki smiled again and said, but the 10th question was the real purpose of this exam. Everyone looked at him with wide eyes and Sakura asked, what does it mean? Let me explain. The 10th question, deciding to answer or not to answer, is the issue. It was a difficult decision. The two options were to choose between your classmates, or for you. They could have chosen the opportunity to take the exam again. A difficult decision, Ibiki said with an amused look. Everyone looked at him with doubts for that explanation, and Ibiki continued explaining. Let's take another example. Let's say you've become a Chunin. Your mission is to steal a secret document. The number of enemies, their abilities, you don't know. And of course there may be traps around you. Now, would you accept or not? Because you don't want to die. Because you want to hurt your comrades. Could you avoid that dangerous mission? The answer is no, no matter the danger. There are missions that you can't avoid. The ability to have courage and survive hardships. That's the skill you'll need to be a Chunin captain. Those who aren't able to face their destiny, those who get carried away by an uncertain future, those who give up that opportunity. Those idiots aren't able to stand firm in their decision, they lack what it takes to become a Chunin, that's how I feel. Luffy laughed internally as he thought. This guy is saying it because of my action a while ago. Can someone who shouts that he won't give up really become captain of the team? Well, I've become a great captain by doing the same, so the irony is fun. You have chosen to try. By answering the 10th question correctly, you are able to survive any problem in the future. They have passed the first Chunin selection exam. I wish you good luck, guys. Ibiki said, looking at Naruto with a proud smile. Luffy smiled at him knowingly and shouted excitedly. Heck yes, we wish it too. Interesting boy, Ibiki thought with amusement. But at that moment, a brown stain entered through the window, destroying it, and instantly, two kunais were stuck in the wall to show a banner that said, Hexy and still single Mitarashi Anko enters the scene. Always the same, Ibiki thought with an amused smile. It's not time for celebrations. I am the second examiner of the exam, Mitarashi Anko. Now let's go, said a woman with purple hair combed in a pointed ponytail, an open brown trench coat that showed off a chain-mail outfit that left a lot to the imagination, and a very short skirt. But what a hot beauty, Sanji shouted with hard eyes. Naruto smiled at what was happening and thought, well, I guess I managed to pass this difficult test with my enormous luck. But anyway, let's move on to the second test. Chapter 22, The Second Exam. Everyone was looking at Anko with a drop of sweat, and she was just with a big smile on her face. Then, Ibiki looked at her and said, I'm still here. Anko just stood looking at those who had been left in the test and noticed Luffy, making her smile more. He just looked at her with confusion, and Anko said with a smile, 87? Ibiki, you let at least 26 more teams pass the exam. Was very easy. There are a lot of exceptional ones this time, Ibiki said with an amused smile. Anko smiled with the same amusement and said with some sadism, Bah, it doesn't matter. Less than half will remain in the second exam. Less than half? Sakura thought upon hearing that. I'm excited. I'll explain everything to you when we leave there. Follow me, Anko said with a smile that scared them. And with that, she retreated out the window like a bullet, and the participants followed her with some fear because of her words. When everyone left, Ibiki picked up the exams, and when she picked up Luffy's exam, she saw that there was nothing written on it, and smiled as she thought, Here's a boy who passed the exam with a blank slate. Monkey D. Luffy Uzumaki, a very interesting boy. Later, they were all standing in front of huge gates that separated them from a huge forest, and some were nervous because of the danger, keep out signs that were all over the gate. Welcome to the second exam stage, practice arena number 44, also known as the Forest of Death, Anko said with a sadistic smile. Luffy looked at the forest with amusement, and Usopp said, "It looks a little creepy." Anko listened to him and said with a smile full of bad things, "Very soon you will know why it is called the Forest of Death. You will soon know why it is called the Forest of Death. Do you think you scare me? That's nothing. I'm not scared," Luffy shouted mockingly. Anko looked at him with wide eyes for a moment, but then she saw how Luffy smiled at her with a challenging smile, and smiled the same way as she said, "Yes, your spirit." Then, a kunai flew past Luffy quickly, landing a little far from a black-haired woman with a straw hat, and instantly, Anko appeared behind the black-haired man to lick the blood coming out of him while saying, "Guys like you die quickly, he, squeezing out this red blood that I love so much." Luffy Nami shouted, looking at the scene with wide eyes. "Damn! Luffy is so lucky!" Sanji shouted with tears. Luffy looked at her with a smile and said, "Shishishi, you are very funny. I like you." Anko smiled back and said, "And you are very interesting. I'm very interested in you, Foxy-kun." But they both felt a person approaching, and Anko pulled out another kunai from her trench coat to point it at the same woman with a straw hat who approached to give her the other kunai with a strangely long tongue. "Here's your kunai," the woman said in a serpentine voice. Luffy looked at her with narrowed eyes as he didn't like what he felt from her with his observation haki. "Thank you? But you should know that you shouldn't sneak up on me unless you want to die," Anko said, taking the kunai cautiously. "No. I was just excited by the sight of red blood. Plus, you cut my precious hair," the woman said with amusement. Some of the Mugiwaras were on high alert, as they had also sensed something bad from her, and Sakura just stared at the two women thinking they were a bit weird. "Sorry about that. Looks like we have a lot of bloodthirsty ones in this exam. Hee, this should be fun," Anko said with an amused smile. "You're the only bloodthirsty one here, crazy," thought Nami, looking at her with a drop of sweat. "Now, before starting the second test, here is something I want you to share. You must sign these forms," Anko said, taking out some papers. Everyone looked at her with a drop of sweat, and Usopp asked worriedly, "What are those forms for?" "If any of you died and I didn't have your signatures, I would be responsible, hee. Anko replied with a big innocent smile. "This test is very dangerous, I don't want to do it," Usopp shouted in panic. "Anko-chan, don't have fun with other people's misfortunes," Luffy thought with an internal chuckle. Yes, he already liked the snake tamer too much and wanted her on the team. "I'm going to explain the second test to you. You can sign here and then each team will check the booth behind me. Now I will explain the second exam. Simply, it's an extreme survival challenge," Anko said with a bit of seriousness. "Extreme survival? Man, this exam sucks," Shikamaru thought lazily. "Extreme survival, my grandmother, this is a test of death," Usopp thought in terror. Anko stood in front of everyone and, showing a scroll, began to explain. "First I will explain the area where we are now. Around arena number 44, there are 44 entrances. Forests, rivers and a tower in the center. From the gates to the tower there are 10 kilometers. During survival here, you will have to complete a mission. Using their weapons and jutsus, they will have to complete a scroll battle." Everyone looked at her with wide eyes and one participant asked, "Scrolls?" "That's it," Anko said with amusement. Then, he showed 2 scrolls, one white and the other black. "You will fight for these 2 scrolls, the one of heaven and the one of earth. There are 87 people, so it is the same as 29 teams. About 14 will take the scroll of heaven, and the other 15 will take the one of earth. To pass this exam, your team must reach the tower with both scrolls," explained Anko with a smile. "So, maybe 14 or 15 teams will move on to the next exam," Nami said seriously. Anko smiled sadistically and said, "But there is a time limit. This second exam lasts 120 hours. Exactly 5 days. 5 days? Ino shouted, not believing it. What about food? Choji shouted, upset. Luffy sighed when he heard them and thought, they are fools. Something like that is a piece of cake for me since I have spent more time in a dangerous forest with nothing to eat and no way to live because of my grandfather who threw me into a forest when I was a child. You'll have to do what you can. The forest is full of food. Be careful of the man-eating monsters, poisonous insects, poisonous plants, and many of you won't make it. As the days go by, each one will feel longer than the last and the time to recover will be shorter. And the area is full of enemies, you won't get much sleep. Besides, that's not the only thing you can lose apart from the scrolls. Some will lose their lives, of course, said Enko with pure amusement. This made Sakura tremble greatly, but she saw how Luffy and his group were calm at her words and wondered how incredible they were to not be afraid of such a forest full of dangers. Sasuke, on the other hand, was angry seeing how Luffy remained calm as well as his companions and dared to seem better than the Uchiha. Now I am going to talk to you about the disqualification. First, reach the tower with both scrolls, after the time limit has passed. Second, if they have lost a partner or died. Those are the rules, there is nothing more, they will be in the forest for 5 days. And one more rule. They can't look inside the scrolls until they reach the tower, Enko said with a smile. What happens if we do it? Nami asked curiously. Enko looked at her with an amused smile, thanking her for the question and said in a mysterious voice. You'll be in for a surprise if you do. As mid-grade ninja you can be trusted to deliver secret messages. That's all the explanation. You'll be given the scroll when you hand in the forms. So, pick a gate and get ready to go. Oh, and one last piece of advice, don't die. So, everyone filled out the scrolls and handed them out to a tent individually so the teams wouldn't know who had which scroll. Luffy was the one chosen by the majority of the team to take the scroll, which further enraged the Uchiha, and they went to Gate 12 to begin the test. When everyone was already in position, Enko shouted. Everyone, follow the instructions and go to your doors, we'll start in 30 minutes. After 30 minutes had passed, Enko shouted. The second test of the Chunin exam begins now. And so, the gates opened to let the 29 teams into the Forest of Death. Luffy's team stood in front of the forest as the black-haired man said. Come on, it's time for us to show some of our true potential. If any of our companions appear, don't back down, and show them your power. Our goal is to reach the tower safely and move on to the next test. They are ready? Yes, almost everyone shouted with excitement. And so, Team 7 entered the Forest of Death for the second test. Once inside, all the teams moved through the forest at high speed in order to find a team and obtain the missing scroll. Among them, Hinata's teammate was stopped in an area of the forest, and Kiba said, So, basically everyone is heading to the tower, right? So, placing traps near there will be the best thing. But Hinata had already seen a team watching them from a tree and said to his teammates, KK Kiba-kun, I think there's someone there. She whispered shyly. Kiba looked out of the corner of his eye at the place where the 3 opponents were and said with a smile, What a speed, where are they? The 3 genin who were watching them were considering how to attack them, when one saw how his partner had remained very still and was shaking a lot. When he looked closer, he saw how some large leeches were sucking on his neck, and the next moment, more leeches fell on them, causing them to fall to the ground in front of Team 8. One of them stood up and heard Kiba's voice saying, Konoha leeches are able to sense life forms and attack in groups. 5 minutes of sucking you and you'll be in the other world. With this and setting the traps, where will the enemy escape now? One less. Hinata looked into the forest as she thought. How are you doing, Luffy-kun and your team? In another area. That was a human scream, right? Sakura asked, looking at the forest seriously. Team 7 was in an area of the forest, looking for a nearby team so they could take the scroll they needed from them, and were making a plan when they heard the heartbreaking scream. Don't worry, Sakura. She was surely a victim of some team that took the scroll from her. She just asked me who she was a victim of, Luffy said with a smile. Ha, you talk as if you knew how to be in a forest like this. There is no way a commoner like you can survive in this place before an elite Uchiha like me, Sasuke said arrogantly. This made all the Mugiwaras look at him angrily, and Nami yelled at him. Shut up, you damn Uchiha, I still haven't forgotten what you tried to do to us. Don't you dare say that you're better than Luffy, when you've never been in the same situations as him. I can assure you that in a forest full of mortal dangers, you wouldn't last 5 seconds while Luffy is capable of being in it without food, water, or any element to survive. You don't know what he's had to go through, you damn emo with duck-ass hair. Sasuke gritted his teeth at her words, knowing he couldn't do anything to her for that damned project of Knights, and Sakura asked, "Does Luffy really know how to survive in a forest like this?" Luffy sighed and said simply, "Yes, actually. My grandfather threw me into a forest similar to this one for a month, and since I had nothing, I had to survive as best I could. I ate toads, locusts, and mushrooms, and only lived with what nature gave me. You could say that spending 5 days in this forest is like being in a playground for me." Sakura was shocked by what she heard, while the Uchiha looked at Luffy with hatred for thinking he was better than him, and Nami said seriously, "And that's why Luffy must be the leader in this test." "And why him? The leader must be me because I'm an Uchiha," Sasuke shouted angrily. Nami glared at him and said, "Do you know how to survive in a forest for 5 days? Sasuke tried to say something, but the orange-haired girl didn't let him as she continued, "Don't try to act like you know. You've already heard that Luffy has complete knowledge of survival in the forest, and as such, it is decided that he will be the leader. We will listen to everything he says, and thus we will be able to pass this test without problems." "I'm with Nami. I'll listen to Luffy and get out of here," Usopp shouted in terror. The other Mugiwaras agreed, and Sakura said nervously, "Well, if Luffy has knowledge of survival in a forest, then I also agree that he should be the leader." Sasuke glared at her for those words, which left the pink-haired girl scared, and Luffy just sighed as he said, "Well, I guess my survival skills will help us in this test." Then, he felt something on his body and became a little nervous as he said, "Sorry, but I have to go to the bathroom. Stay here until I get back and don't trust anyone." With that, he left to go to the bathroom, and when they were alone, Sasuke said with annoyance, "He's just an idiot who has no clan or class. What does he have that is better than me?" The Mugiwaras looked at him with a frown, and Sanji was the one who spoke. "Maybe he's a good person, unlike an arrogant emo like you." Sasuke glared at him for those words, but at that moment, Luffy appeared before them with a smile and said, "Man, I was on top of it. I feel great." However, the Mugiwaras glared at him with murderous eyes, and Nami threw a punch at him that sent him straight into a tree, destroying it in the process. The Luffy they hit lay on the ground defeated, and instantly, a smoke screen appeared to reveal a masked genin. "Luffy was right, we can't trust anyone," Zoro said with a cold look. Sanji began to search him to see if he had the scroll they needed until he finished and said, "Nothing. It seems that he was sent to find a team and take the scroll from them. One of his companions must have it, and must be waiting for his companion." Then, they saw how Luffy appeared and told them, "I see that they have managed to take care of one." Sasuke looked at him with cold eyes and said, "How do we know it's you?" Luffy smiled and then turned his arm black from the armor haki. "This is enough proof. You know that only we can use armor haki in this world," Luffy said with a kind smile. Sasuke growled at that, and Sakura calmed down. Then Nami said, "That's good. We better have something that can identify us from the imposters. Some kind of password or code." They thought about it for a bit, and Sasuke said with annoyance, "I have an idea." Everyone looked at him carefully and listened to his plan. Nearby, a woman in a straw hat watched them from the swamp and listened to their conversation. "We will create a password for these occasions. Listen, if they mess up the password, assume they're the enemy, no matter what they look like. Listen carefully because I will only say it once, the ninja, weapon, poem. When asked, they will respond with, 'A ninja waits patiently hidden from numerous enemies.' A ninja must know the right moment to act and wait for the enemy's exhaustion or error," Sasuke said seriously. "Okay," Sakura said with a smile. "Wait, that's impossible to memorize," Luffy said with annoyance. "I memorized it easily," Nami said proudly. The woman dove into the swamp while thinking, "What a clever plan." Then Sasuke stood up and said, "I will guard the scroll." But at that moment, Luffy felt a cut on his cheek and immediately realized what was happening. "Careful," he shouted. At that moment, a huge gust of wind attacked them and separated them, taking Luffy and his entire crew away from there. Nearby, the woman was with her two companions and said to them, "You can stay here. I'm going alone." Moments later, Sasuke was coming out of a bush he took shelter in when he saw Sakura approaching her. "Sasuke." "Wait," Sasuke shouted, pointing his kunai at her. "Stay away. First, the password. The poem weapon." Sakura looked at him with serious eyes and began to recite. "A ninja waits patiently hidden from numerous enemies. A ninja must know the right moment to act and wait for the exhaustion or the error of his enemy." Sasuke looked at her for a while and then smiled as he said, "Well, it's you." Then, Luffy appeared before them while saying, "Are you guys okay?" Sasuke and Sakura looked at him with cold eyes and Sasuke said, "Wait a second, dope password." "I know. A ninja waits patiently, hidden from numerous enemies. A ninja must know the right moment to act and wait for his enemy's exhaustion or mistake," said Luffy, scratching his head. Sasuke looked at him with murderous eyes and threw a kunai at him, making him dodge it with agility. "Sasuke, why?" Luffy said the password. Sakura screamed, scared. "It seems that this time it's someone quite agile at dodging," Sasuke said coldly. "What are you talking about, Sasuke?" Sakura asked fearfully. The Luffy before them looked at them with an evil smile and a screen of smoke exploded where he stood as a chilling hissing voice said, "Cuckoo, impressive. How did they know he was an imposter?" The same woman who had approached Luffy and Anko with a malicious smile appeared before them. They both looked at her with very serious eyes and Sasuke said, "We knew that someone was listening to us underground and that's why we created a password like that. Besides, that idiot can't memorize that poem for that long. So you were an imposter." The woman smiled evilly and said, "I see. You're not tired, but are you ready? This is going to be more fun than I thought." They both felt a chill down their spine and Sakura thought, "I don't like this. Where are you, Luffy?" Meanwhile, a little far away from there, Luffy was standing on a branch with Nami, after having held onto her in that gust and looked towards the forest with a bad feeling. "I do not like this. I feel that there is more danger than previously believed. This presence I feel is unusual. She is similar to Hokage Gigi, but she is evil. I don't like this," he said with serious eyes. Then, a huge shadow rose behind them and a hiss could be heard, revealing a giant snake intent on eating them. The snake lunged at him and the black-haired man only screamed with fury as he prepared his fist and said, "No. I prefer Hancock's snake more since she is calmer and more adorable. Get lost." With that, he delivered a powerful blow against the snake that sent it flying and disappearing in smoke into the air. Luffy saw this seriously and said, "This is bad, Nami. I feel like those two are in danger. Let's go quickly to save them." The orange-haired girl nodded and they went to find the rest to go save their two teammates. Chapter 23: Fighting a Snake. With Sasuke and Sakura. The two were in front of Oto's wife, who looked at them with a crooked smile, and they were analyzing how to face such a guy now. Sasuke was looking at the woman with anger while Sakura looked at her with fear and thought, "This chick is creepy. Where are Luffy and his nakamas?" The woman smiled mockingly and taking out her scroll from her robe, she said, "You want my earth scroll, right? Because you have the one from heaven." Then, he proceeded to swallow the scroll he was holding before the horrified gaze of the two genin, and when he swallowed it completely, he said, "Now let's start the battle for the other scroll, with their lives at stake." They both watched in terror as the woman removed part of her face with a macabre smile, and the next moment, both were impaled by two kunai on the forehead. But in reality, everything turned out to be false and Sasuke thought in panic, "Genjutsu?" But he felt a huge discomfort in his stomach and began to vomit on the floor while thinking seriously. "No, this is just fear. The killing instinct in her eyes is causing an image to kill. Who is this bitch?" He looked to his side and found Sakura shaking like a jelly, so he clicked his tongue while thinking, You useless bastard, you're just getting in my way, I'd better just leave you here to die. Hee, you can't move anymore, the woman said in a sadistic and mocking tone. Sasuke looked at her angrily for those words and took out a kunai while thinking angrily. Move on, you are an elite Uchiha, you can't lose to this commoner. Then, the woman threw some kunai towards the black-haired man, and he dodged them as best he could. The kunai were stuck in a tree, but the woman watched with an evil smile as there was blood on the ground. She watched as the pink-haired girl continued before her, trembling with fear, and only smiled as she walked next to her without paying attention to her. He has made a wound in his own body to eliminate fear with pain, and he has left his companion here to die. And I thought I was an ordinary prey, she thought with amusement. Sasuke was on a tree while he was taking out the kunai that he had embedded himself to escape from fear and was watching the woman to act. He watched how Sakura was trembling from the presence of the woman and thought, that's what you get for being useless. She's useless except as a shield to protect herself. Now I have to find a way to fight her and take the scroll so I can go to the tower. That way I can prove that I never needed a stupid team and I'll be alone to be made stronger. But he could hear a hiss behind him, and when he looked, he saw in horror how a snake was lunging towards him to eat him. The black-haired man jumped just in time to avoid her, and thought furiously, damn it, I was so scared that I didn't feel the snake. The snake coiled around the tree to follow him, and launched itself at him again to devour him. Sasuke saw the woman's eyes in it and threw some kunais at it while screaming in panic. Get out of me! The kunais hit the huge snake, and it fell dead on a branch of the tree. Sasuke hid behind another branch while breathing heavily, but he watched in horror as the snake's skin opened and the same woman emerged with her macabre smile. You guys shouldn't relax at a time like this. The prey should always try its best to escape, in the presence of a predator. Saying that, his body began to stretch to curl around the trunk of the tree, and Sakura watched this with wide eyes as she thought, it's like Luffy's ability. Luffy, where are you? But then, the woman was stopped by some shurikens that she had to dodge, and when they looked at the origin of the attack, they found a certain boy with a straw hat accompanied by his nakamas, looking at them with a smile. Sorry, we're a little late, Luffy said with his classic smile. Luffy, Sakura shouted happily. Sasuke just gritted his teeth and shouted at Luffy angrily. Get out, you moron, I don't need your help to eliminate this weakling. Luffy rolled his eyes at her words, and the woman smiled in amusement as she said, Kukukuku. Look, they managed to defeat that giant snake. I congratulate you, Luffy-kun. Luffy and his nakamas looked at her cautiously, and Luffy thought, this woman looks like a snake, and from what I see, she is after Sasuke. His nakamas were ready to fight this woman, but Sasuke just showed his Sharingan and took out the scroll while saying to her, I will give you the scroll. Please take it and leave us. This was seen by everyone with wide eyes, and Luffy shouted furiously, what do you think you're doing? Handing over the scroll is like handing over the treasure that you have guarded with so much effort, and we would never hand over our most precious treasure to anyone. But the woman just smiled in amusement at what she saw and said mockingly, I see, very elegant. The only way for the prey is to escape from the predator, by giving it another prey. Sasuke gritted his teeth at her words and threw the scroll at her as he said, Shut up and take it from my mercy, Uchiha. However, everyone saw how the scroll was caught by the orange-haired girl, who returned to Luffy at high speed. What are you doing, you damn commoner? Stay out of this, Sasuke yelled at her furiously. But Nami gave the scroll to Luffy and disappeared instantly to hit the Uchiha in the face before everyone's stunned gaze. Nami-san? Sakura asked herself when she saw this. Sasuke looked at her with anger for that blow, but the orange-haired woman only looked at him with contempt as she said, You really are an idiot. What guarantee do you have that that woman will leave us alone after obtaining the scroll? I have learned that although a person with bad intentions will not leave his goal even if we offer him something to make him leave us alone. Sakura opened her eyes at these words, and the woman just laughed with amusement as she said, Kukukuku, you are absolutely right, young lady. Because I can kill them and take the scroll. Then, he bit his thumb to put his blood on a seal on his arm and shouted, The judgment of the body. Instantly, A huge snake appeared before them with a hungry look. Luffy looked at this seriously and charged at the snake, while his body expelled steam in its second gear and prepared his fist with haki. "Gomu Gomu no Red Hawk," he shouted with fury. The woman saw this with wide eyes and watched as Luffy hit the snake with a fire punch in amazement. When the snake disappeared, the woman said with a chilling smile, "Kukukuku, you have shown me something I have never seen before. You can stretch your body. You covered your arm with a very interesting black material. Your body expels steam as if it were thermal water, and you can also throw fire blows. You are very interesting." Then, he moved quickly to appear behind the captain, and he quickly turned around to avoid his bite. "What do you think you're doing, damn?" Luffy yelled at her furiously. "Kukukuku, very perceptive. It seems I will have to wait a bit to give you a gift, Luffy-kun. However." He created a hand seal and his neck lengthened until it reached Sasuke's neck and bit it with his teeth. "Damn!" Sasuke shouted when he was bitten. He fainted instantly after being bitten and began to fall to the ground, until Sakura caught him in time. The woman looked at Team 7 with a crooked smile and said, "Kukukuku, Sasuke-kun will come for my power. I hope he likes my gift. See you another time, you bunch of promising kids for being just brats. You turned out to be pretty interesting." Once he said those words, he submerged himself into the earth to disappear from the place as if he had never been there. Left alone, Luffy went with his group towards Sakura and Sasuke, who were in a tree while the Uchiha writhed from the pain of the mark the woman left on him. "What happened to him?" Luffy asked him, worried. "He was bitten by that woman and has a strange mark on his neck." "What do we do?" Sakura said, looking at him with pure seriousness. Nami looked towards the forest and said, "We better get out of here since it is not safe for us to be in sight of the other teams. Let's hide and there we will see how to deal with that mark." Sakura nodded and Luffy took Sasuke in his arms to begin jumping with his team through the trees and find a hiding place to help the Uchiha. In an area far from Luffy's group, Niji's team was resting from their search through the forest. "The sun will set in less than an hour. We must spend the day gathering food and water. Most of the teams will be resting, so we will attack according to plan. We will split up and use 30 minutes to scout the area. But whether they find a team or not, we will return in 30 minutes. Understood?" Niji said seriously. "Understood," Tenten said with a smile. "Okay," Lee said enthusiastically. "All right. Let's go," Niji said with a sly smile. With that, the three of them scattered through the forest in search of their target, leaving a kunai on the ground to mark their meeting place. On the other hand, with Luffy's team, Luffy, his group and Sakura were in a hiding place, under a tree, while Chopper checked on the Uchiha. "Sasuke doesn't have any medical problems, but what worries me is that mark. His breathing is returning to normal, but his fever is very high," Chopper said after checking it. Sakura looked at Luffy in fear and asked, "What do we do, Luffy?" Luffy was calm and said seriously, "We will stay here until Sasuke wakes up. Continuing on our way while he is in this state can be dangerous. However, Zoro, Sanji and I will go search for equipment in the forest to get the scroll we need. In the meantime, Nami, Chopper, Robin and you, Sakura, will stay here taking care of Sasuke. The others, keep an eye on this hideout so you don't get attacked. Are you okay with this?" Everyone nodded at his words, and thus, Luffy and the two members of the monstrous trio left the hideout to look for some equipment with the scroll they needed, while the others remained in the hideout taking care of the Uchiha. However, a certain sound crew was watching them from outside and a malicious smile formed on their faces. The next day, Sakura and Nami were taking care of the Uchiha while the others slept, and the pink-haired girl asked the orange-haired girl, "Nami, why are you so loyal to Luffy? What is the reason why you love him that way?" The orange-haired girl looked at her in surprise at that question and sighed as she said, "If what you're asking is that my love for Luffy is equal to yours for this boy, I must tell you that it is not. I'm sorry to have to clarify this for you, but yours was more of an obsession than love. You didn't see how arrogant I was in the fact that I didn't want anything to do with you. I love Luffy for everything he's done, not just for me, but for all of us. I love him because I can see that he's a good person, Someone who is willing to give his life for those he cares about and has a big heart. That's the difference between your love and mine. Sakura lowered her head as she thought about everything he had told her, wondering if she had been so blind for so long. But they heard a sound near them, and as they looked, they could see a squirrel approaching them. A squirrel? Sakura asked with her eyes rolling. But Nami just lunged at her and quickly caught her, pulling out a piece of paper at lightning speed and throwing it away. The paper exploded in the air, waking up the others, and Nami returned with the squirrel in her hands. An explosive tag? Sakura asked in disbelief. This is like with Haku's rabbit. They're here, Sakura, guys, be ready for battle. Luffy, Zoro and Sanji-kun have not yet returned from their search, and it is our turn to fight, Nami said seriously. Everyone nodded at his words, and suddenly, a voice was heard in the area. Hee, they are very good at surveillance. Everyone looked to their side to see the sound crew watching them with cold eyes. Wake up, Sasuke-kun. We want to fight him, said the guy with the bandages maliciously. Nami just smirked and said, And you're saying this, lackeys of this Orochimaru who were only sent to be guinea pigs in his experiment? Poor things, you've come as corpses for a guy who sees you as nothing more than simple trash that he can throw to the slaughterhouse so that you die for him. This made the two guys grind their teeth while the girl sweated at the orange-haired girl's words, and the guy in the helmet said with an evil smile, I'm already angry, damn it, I'll kill you and then kill the others for fun. He was going to attack the orange-haired girl, but the one with the bandages shouted at him. Espera, Zaku. Why? Zaku shouted furiously. The one with the bandages inspected the ground carefully and said, You are not very good. There are openings here and the color of the earth is very different. Grass doesn't grow here. Sakura looked at him with sweat while the one with bandages looked at her with mocking eyes and said, A stupid trap. It is useless unless one realizes it. Stupid, Zaku said maliciously. So you prevented the squirrel from falling into the trap. Well, the girl and those stupid people are not useful to us, only Sasuke-kun. Let's kill them, said the one with the bandages with a murderous look. They charged at them to finish them off, but Nami smiled evilly as she touched a curious seal on the trunk. Instantly, a huge tree trunk appeared towards the sound team, and the bandaged one opened his eyes at this. Another trap? He shouted. The log came towards them quickly, and the bandages guy put his arm in front of him and made a hand seal to send a sound wave from the device on his arm to destroy the log into splinters. These brats are a nuisance. I don't know what they did against us, but weaklings like them shouldn't mess with people like us, he shouted furiously. The three of them charged at the group, but were blown away by a green blur that screamed, Hello everyone. The sound trio was sent flying towards the trees, crashing into them heavily, and Sakura said in surprise, Lee-kun. Well done, big eyebrows, Nami said with a smile. Before them, Rock Lee was watching over the sound trio as he said excitedly, Oh yeah, I've arrived on time now, I'm going to demonstrate my power of youth. The guy with the bandages stood up in pain from the crater in the tree to glare at Lee as he said, And who are you? Lee just smiled excitedly and said, I am the beautiful green beast of Konoha. Rock Lee. Meanwhile, at the Uzumaki compound, Hancock stood in the kitchen while cooking a delicious dinner with a smile and said, I hope Luffy and his nakamas do well in that test. Fufufu, I will have a delicious dinner ready for my beloved when he returns, so he will be happy. Luffy, my love, I hope you like the meat I'm making for you.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.